And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Tuesday, October 31st, Halloween, which reminds me I should go turn off my porch lights. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by Bet365. Just a 3-game slate for today. Interesting dynamics in probably all 3 of the games. Fun talking points across the board. I like this slate more than I thought that I would. That doesn't really matter. I'm playing it one way or the other. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow Adam and I on Twitter. Our handles are below our bodies. Adam, what's up?
Yeah, how's it going? Pretty interesting slate, I guess. I mean, for a 3-gamer, it's not bad. It's still, I don't like them in general, but like you said, gonna play it regardless. And there's definitely been worse.
There definitely has been worse, for sure. Hey, next Tuesday, we don't do this at all. There are no basketball games next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Are you going to vote? You're going to rock the vote, Adam?
I didn't know that there were, I honestly did not know there were elections in odd years.
I don't know what it's for. I've seen some signs around town, but I don't really care if I have to like get a new register of deeds.
Yeah, I mean, like I Googled stuff earlier once I found out about there not being basketball next Tuesday. And like I saw stuff about like elections in like Virginia and Pennsylvania. I didn't see anything about Maryland, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know anything about. I don't follow it. I should. I feel like a piece of shit for not knowing like local politics, but I don't know where to begin because I don't think any of it matters.
I mean, I think local matters more, but yeah,
I don't like. I have a hard time believing. I feel like it's going to be a lot like Carcetti going into Baltimore, and it's just like, well, we still need to go to like the governor to actually get money, so it's whatever he wants.
Right. And I mean, at least the way things work in Baltimore and most cities, I think is whatever money they get is going to get distributed in ways that it was not promised anyway. So
I think it's just too far down the string to like actually have the pull. Maybe like ultra local, you know, if you're the mayor of 1,000-person town or something, whatever you say is probably going to go. But I don't know. You going trick-or-treating tonight? You're the stature of a child.
I'm going to dress back up like I was 10 minutes ago and go out.
Nice. I'm just going to continue to watch Chris Broussard's performance today over and over and over again.
That was incredible.
It's
I wish
nuts.
I had seen that. Like, I don't. Is he even still on ESPN? I don't know what channel he's on, but I don't watch any like sports talk stuff. But I do wish I had seen that live. I would have absolutely lost it.
I've watched it so many times, and I don't know if that's Fox or ESPN. I don't know. I legit don't know. I don't take in any of them, and they all look the exact same. So it's tough, but hilarious. Pour one out for Joel Embiid's bank account, down $35K today for handing out too many crotch chops. It's a shame, man. That's a shame. If I got fined that much for the amount, I probably send out a crotch chop once or twice a week. It's just, it's so natural. It's such a great gesture.
In what context are you doing that? Like,
if Katie's like,
just walking
hey,
around
can you
the
take
house
out
to your wife, or
can you take out the trash? No. Bang.
Okay. Yeah.
Just one of those, you know, public. Somebody cuts me off, crotch chop. Sure. Whenever I can, honestly. Whenever I can. It should be more people should do crotch chops. What I want to know is it would he get fined if he did the DX crotch chop? Because then you're not really chopping the crotch. The real one, I get. The DX one, more of a gimmick. I don't know. That's the way that I think. I'm trying to kill as much time as I can because we only have 3 games.
You've completely lost me at this point.
Well, the crotch chops are all because of professional wrestling.
Right, which is why I don't know the intricacies of them.
Yeah, that's a shame, man. That is an absolute shame. What do you think about the Washington football team's fire sale? Fire sale. Yeah,
good. Wish they, really should do more, but like football teams just still don't treat deadlines like other leagues do. But yeah, they're cooked. The coaching staff is gone. The only thing is, like, I wish people making decisions were gonna be with the organization in the future. But
fair.
Nothing like egregious happened. Like with the Orioles back when they were good in like the mid 2010s. And then they got to the end of it and they had to decide what to do with Machado and stuff. And you had Dan Duquette as the GM with 1 foot out the door deciding like, what, are we going to sell Machado here or are we going to hold on to him? Like, I hated that, but here it's nothing like that.
No, they're finally doing what you're supposed to do in these situations. So kudos, Washington. You want to talk some basketball?
Sure.
800 people in the house right now. We're right at 100 likes. So make sure you keep hitting that thumbs up. It helps us out a ton. And we want to set the table pretty well for NBA Live Before Lock, which will come back at 6:30 right after we're done. But for now, we are going to talk New York Knicks. Bing bong, 3.5 point favorites in Cleveland, 212 total. That's a real eyesore. For the Knicks, 23% ownership coming into Jalen Brunson. 25 to Mitchell Robinson, 38 to Julius Randle, with another 14 going to RJ Barrett. So I'm just going to throw it to you to start. Who is the Knick that you're expecting to have the most?
Probably Randle. Just fits really nicely into lineups. He's obviously good. Right now we have him, just refreshed everything, but right now we have him with a 44% chance of being optimal. That's the second highest optimal percentage on the slate, 38% ownership. So actually projected to go a little bit under owned in addition to having the second highest optimal percentage. It's, not a great matchup or anything, but he's only 8K. The playing time's going to be there. You and I talked about it a bit this morning because somebody in chat mentioned, how poorly he's played this year and that they don't want to go back to him, but he's still producing fantasy points. And to me, when guys like this is not normally you shouldn't really be taking anything away from 2 or 3 games anyway, in the sense of like, what Julius Randle is. Just because he's played poorly, you shouldn't be changing your opinion of Julius Randle anyway. But when you see somebody producing like 1.1 fantasy points per minute and shooting like 28% on layups or whatever it was, 38% true shooting, that should just reinforce to you how good of a play he is, because he's going to get back to his normal shooting sooner than later. And he's producing even without being efficient.
I think he's the easiest guy to get to here on the Knicks team. I don't have much to add. He's one of the better plays for today. That 8K price tag and that positionality really helps. How do we want to handle center? 25% ownership coming to Mitchell Robinson at 5,100, 7% coming into Isaiah Hartenstein at 3,500.
Yeah, so I think it's a really interesting center position because both guys are so cheap and you're likely splitting 48 minutes. Now, Robinson should clearly be getting the bulk of those minutes. And at 5,100, he's getting most of the ownership, 24.5%, 26% chance of being optimal. But in those games where Mitchell Robinson does fail at 5,100, there's a really good chance that a $3,500 Hartenstein only getting 7% ownership comes through, because every minute that Robinson doesn't play, most of those minutes at least are likely to be going to Hartenstein. So there is that negative correlation there, which is nice when you have it makes Hartenstein interesting in tournaments when he's negatively correlated with a pretty popular Mitchell Robinson, but also with as cheap as both of those guys are, there is a path where like they both just end up being useful plays. If Hartenstein just beats out all of these other sub 4K guys, he can do that in like 16, 18 minutes. It's at least possible. So ideally not playing them together all that often, but I probably wouldn't actually set a rule against it. And individually, I think Robinson looks like the better option, but both guys are really somewhat interesting in tournaments.
Absolutely. Zach Jameson with a question. Did you find out what the emergency was, Adam?
Yes, it was something to do with them working in the service elevator and an alarm getting set off.
And they sent you the information about that when?
Yeah, I got the email like 30 minutes after the alarm telling me that I did not need to evacuate my building.
Oh, it's incredible. It's incredible. So the one we haven't talked yet about Jalen Brunson, 23% owned. I think that just looks fine. I don't have like much of a take here. I think he's just sort of properly owned.
Who was that? Sorry, I was reading chat.
Brunson.
Oh yeah, I think he's pretty much correctly owned. We have him going a little bit under owned, 30% optimal, 24% ownership.
Okay.
And he was actually showing up a pretty good amount in my lineup generator videos earlier as just a way to, not that he's low owned, but a moderately owned guy that still gives you a nice ceiling. So definitely interested in him. I'm running a new crunch right now, so I'll know, I guess, what I'm getting to in a minute. But definitely interested in Brunson and looks to be going a little bit under owned. So like right now, if the slate started right now, I would be playing around, where is he? Around like 22%. So right in line with the field.
Okay. The guy that I want to have a conversation about is showing up at 14% ownership, $6,200 small forward, power forward, RJ Barrett. I think he's getting slept on a little bit. He is the guy that I am getting to the most from the New York Knicks right now. Normally like a 0.95 fantasy point per minute guy. He's been 0.99 in their games so far. There's not a lot to write home about, but he plays the minutes. The price works. He has the MPE. I'm surprised he's not getting a little bit more love.
Yeah, I'm not even getting to the field. I have like 8% right now. He's 14% owned. I think he makes, like, I get what you're saying. I think he makes sense. He fits in the lineups. He's 6,200. One thing I will say is my exposure to him could certainly come up as we get closer to lock, because right now I have an obscene amount of Amir Coffee, which is something that we will obviously talk about in a bit. I will most likely be cutting that back some because I don't need to take that much of a stand on him. And by doing that, it makes me think the fact that I'm getting that much of him makes me think that I am really prioritizing getting, Randle, Durant, Mitchell, like as much as I can. And it's squeezing out those mid-range guys like RJ Barrett. So I do think it's likely that once I do, put in a little bit of a sanity check on a guy that I have no idea how many minutes he's even going to play, that Barrett does start to creep up a little bit.
Like, I get that the positionality is a little bit different, but if Max Strus is 29% owned, like, I'm just much more interested in RJ Barrett at half of that.
Sure.
Fultz is at 26%. Like, I get the positions are a little bit different. He's a little bit cheaper, but I don't know. It's just that it's weird to me. It's a little weird to me. So I'm happy to get to RJ Barrett. I tend to get to him a little bit more than others, but at 14% on a 3-gamer, like, that's the kind of guy that I'm happy to get to. There's no reason that RJ Barrett can't go out there, drop a 7x day, and immediately just become essential at that price tag and that positionality. Grimes, Hart, Quickly, DiVincenzo, I don't really have too much for those guys. They're sort of just last dudes in on a random 3-gamer.
Yeah, that's the same for me. Nothing really showing up. None of those guys showing up a ton. Quickly showing up like 14% of the time for me. Yeah, just the guy that I'm getting to the most by a lot from the Knicks is Randle. And then everybody else is kind of just, like around the field or even a little bit less.
Okie doke. You want to go over to Cleveland?
Yeah.
Do you want to cover Cleveland? I don't think either one of us want to go to Cleveland.
True.
Sorry, Cleveland. Sorry, Bellman, if you're watching. Cleveland Cavaliers, 3.5-point dogs, since they are on the opposite side of this one. And by the way, they've got no Jared Allen, no Darius Garland, no Ty Jerome. We have a Q tag on Karis LeVert and Donovan Mitchell. So this could get crazy by 7 o'clock. My expectation, and I assume for you right now, we are projecting Karis LeVert and Donovan Mitchell to be in.
Yeah, both guys were present at shoot-around. The LeVert one's a little bit weird since he was downgraded during the day, but then he was still at shoot-around, so I assume he's playing for now. Mitchell, I'm a little bit more confident in him playing. He tweeted whatever he tweets before most games that he plays, which, take it for what it's worth, but he generally doesn't do it when he's not playing. So seems likely he's going to play. LeVert, I would guess maybe a little bit more questionable, but the fact that they were both at shoot-around makes me think they're both going to play.
Well, the public thinks Donovan Mitchell is going to play because he's 54% owned at 9,700, point guard, shooting guard eligible. Looks fantastic as a pay up. I didn't get all the way to 54%, though. I thought I'd soak that up. I'm only at 37, so I still have him, but I didn't get all the way there. All told, though, fantastic play today.
Yeah, I'm at 48%, so not too far off the field, and he just looks really good. I mean, the usage goes up. He's got about a 35% usage rate without Darius Garland on the floor since the start of last year. Very good fantasy producer on a per minute rate. The salary's relatively expensive, at least when you compare him to Kevin Durant. I guess that's the one thing that maybe could hold him back a little bit is you have Durant playing without Booker and Beal for $800 more on DraftKings. You could certainly make the case if you can only get to one of them that Durant is the priority. So this is somebody where, I have 48% of him right now. I have 56% Randle. I have 86% Durant. I mentioned that Amir Coffee piece again. Like, that's something where he's in like 45% of my lineups right now. So once I do something with him, it is possible that like these top end guys get squeezed a little bit and maybe Mitchell does come back and I continue to prioritize Durant, for example. But outside of the, comparing him to Durant and then a much less expensive Julius Randle, Mitchell himself looks very good.
Yeah, so that's probably an unnecessarily big stand on Amir Coffey for today.
Yeah, but that's kind of thing is like if I cut his projection a little bit. So let's say I'm getting like 15-20%.
Yeah.
Am I going to start mixing in other really cheap guys and keeping the way that I have Mitchell, Randle, Durant? Or is it going to say like, okay, well, Randle's the better value, Durant's the better projection, we're just kicking out Donovan Mitchell now?
Right. Thoughts on the second highest owned guy for Cleveland, Max Strus, 5,800 shooting guard, small forward, certainly fits, but 30% just feels, I feel like we're getting the top end of Strus. I don't think he's a 1.07 fantasy point per minute guy moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, it feels pretty gross. I'm getting around 26% right now. So pretty much in line with what we have as the optimal percentage. Very, very slightly below the field, but pretty much in line with the field. And I think the positional eligibility has a lot to do with it. Shooting guard, small forward. 5,800 isn't a great price tag for Max Strus, but it's still cheap enough where it's just going to nicely fit into a good amount of lineups. And, there are more shots to go around without Garland as well.
Are you a believer in 38-minute projection?
I mean, that's probably on the high end of what I would want to project, but expect it.
I think that's what's causing me to just like not get to 29%, just projecting him for 36 minutes. I don't mind handing out 37s and 38s to, Donovan Mitchells and Jason Tatums and stuff when they're playing. I'm going to have a little bit more trouble doing it for 2 games worth of Dean Wade playing in Cleveland. Or 3 games worth of Max Strus playing in Cleveland. Although, who knows? I mean, 39 minutes, 38 minutes, 41.8 minutes. It's not like it's not happening. It's crazy. It's crazy. Okay, let's talk about the other guys that are pulling ownership. 3 guys in the teens. Evan Mobley, 13%. Dean Wade, 16%. Karis LeVert, 17%. I have one of these dudes way more than the others. I'm pretty sure you know who it is, but
so do I. And it's not the one that I want.
It's Wade?
Yep.
Yeah. See, I got LeVert in 50%, and I'm cool with that too.
Yeah, perfectly fine with LeVert, but I don't have much Mobley. I don't have a lot of LeVert. I have a ton of Dean Wade. And I think, again, this just goes back to, at least with the builds that I'm getting right now, Durant, Mitchell, Randle, all priorities for me. And so it's just forcing in cheap guys like Dean Wade, which is fine. He's 3,600. He should probably be a little bit more than that. I don't really have any confidence in him. Like you said, played 37 minutes last game with Mitchell and Garland both out. There's no guarantee he plays 37 minutes or anything particularly close to it, but he's still 3,600. There should be some, there should be enough playing time there. He played 26 and a half 2 games ago when Mitchell was in. If you're getting, call it like 26 to 30 minutes from Wade at 3,600 and modest ownership, I don't mind taking the shot. It's just not very confident it's going to work out.
Yeah, I've got 25% of Wade right now, which works for me based on that price. It is a LeVert day. I think he's one of the better options you can get to specifically at that ownership. It's interesting to me that you're not really getting to LeVert or RJ Barrett. Same exact price range, similar sort of style for positionality. So it really is pulling you out of that area.
Yeah. Yeah, like I adjusted things a little bit, and now, like if the slate started right now, I haven't adjusted for coffee, I'd have 14% Barrett, I'd have 10% LeVert. But like the small forward position is outside of like 25% Strus. My exposures at small forward are just telling me that's somewhere that I'm looking to pay down. Amir Coffey, Josh Okogie, Grayson Allen, Eric Gordon, all showing up more than Barrett and LeVert.
Thoughts on Isaac Okoro, 4,500 small forward, power forward? That just feels like too much price.
Yeah, I'm getting around like 8% of him. Don't feel very strongly one way or the other. Not a good point per minute guy. 4,500 is a little bit more expensive than I would really like to pay.
Anybody else?
Mobley,
go ahead.
Evan Mobley to me is really interesting. I'm not getting to him, but I really wish that I was. He's $100 more than Julius Randle, which I'm sure is a big reason I'm not getting to him. but 13% ownership for Mobley compared to 39% for Randle. We have Mobley going quite a bit on their own. Last year without Jarrett Allen, in games without Jarrett Allen, Mobley's rebounding percentage jumped like 2 to 2.5 points. His point per minute production jumped about 1/10 of a point. And, it makes sense. There's more rebounds to go around. He's playing minutes at the 5. So I like the idea of Evan Mobley a lot. I personally don't have him right now, but I think he's really interesting.
I have 24%, so I'm kind of happy about it.
I like that. I would like to end up there.
We shall see where you end up in the long run. I don't think there's anybody else that we could talk about other than any flyers on $3,500 George Niang.
So he was one I talked about this morning, and I was like, I don't know how, if I'll get to him or how much, but in theory, he kind of made some sense. I'm not getting to him at all. But like that's an example though of, I said I need to adjust Amir Coffey. If I really stick to the same type of build that I'm getting right now and I dial back Amir Coffey, Niang is somebody that certainly could just start popping up as another guy where it's like, oh, he's going to play, 15 to 18 minutes and maybe he'll make a bunch of threes.
One game down, 2 to go. But now we got to talk about the most important thing that I could tell you guys. Today is the final day that you can use the promo code TIPOFF to get 20% off one of our NBA packages. Last day. It ends tonight at midnight. Get in now while you can use the tools for tonight's slate. You're going to get projections and ownership, boom bust, all of the data on the back end. You get the NBA Sims tool, which Jordan has been sharing for most of this show. The ability to late swap using that tool with the late swap. It's going to change your life for big slates anytime there's news, and it's the NBA. That never stops. It's the best thing that you could ask for right now, and you get it for 20% off. That goes away tomorrow. You should still sign up, but why cost yourself the money? 20% off right now. Promo code TIPOFF. Link in the description or in the description or in the chat. Again, TIPOFF. 20% off. Last day. Final day. When we get to November, you got to pay the full freight, guys. And look, if you sign up and you hate it, you're only out whatever you signed up for. You're not locked into anything if you don't want to be. But you're going to want to stick around. I promise you that. And hit that like button. 1,740 people, 234 likes. That's actually fantastic. Let's celebrate the Halloween season right now with more likes. San Antonio Spurs. They are 6.5-point dogs in Phoenix. 225 total. No news for their injuries. This is like the complete opposite of what we just looked at. 18% ownership to Zach Collins is the high mark. He is one of 3 guys on San Antonio that even gets north of 10. Keldon Johnson's at 10%. Devin Vassell's at 16%. The most I have of anybody is 15% of Zach Collins. One of these guys is going to end up like having a really good day. I just don't know who it's going to be, but this will be the team I have the least amount of exposure to.
The one I'm getting a lot of is not the one that I expected to be getting a lot of. Well, 2, I guess, but I'm getting over the field on Devin Vassell on DraftKings around 26%. He's projected for 16. I don't have a problem with that. I'm getting like 34% Trey Jones.
Okay, that seems aggressive.
Yeah.
5K point guard eligible, 5% owned right now.
Right. Like the ownership's really low. He's not a bad point per minute guy, but like 20 minutes last game, I'm hoping that goes away. I don't have a good reason for why it's happening. Like it's definitely not somebody that I'm looking at and saying, like, oh yeah, I think the field's messing up here by not playing this guy. I think it's more so just that on this slate, again, at least the way I'm building my lineups right now, Durant, Randle, Mitchell are such priorities. And then also wanting to mix in some of those mid-range guys that are priced really well, like Wendell Carter, like Jusuf Nurkic. It's just forcing me into these plays that suck, but at least they're low owned and hopefully they work out. So I guess that's why I'm getting to Trey Jones right now. So it's another situation, we talked about it a lot yesterday, and it's something to just always keep in mind. Like I'm going to say, what I'm getting to exposure wise, but that generally isn't going to be because I have some take on a player and that's why I'm getting a lot of them. Normally it has to do with what the rest of my lineups and exposures look like. And so, a lot of these guys that aren't really good plays that I am getting a lot of, it's because of Durant, Randle, Mitchell, Carter, Nurkic being priorities. It's, if those guys are lower priorities for you, then you shouldn't be looking at this like, oh yeah, I need to play a bunch of Dean Wade and Trey Jones because Adam said he has a lot of them. Like the reason I have a lot of them is those other pieces.
I have 15% Collins, 12 of the Sell and everything else, and 7 of Sohan. I just like don't have this game. And San Antonio is going to go out there and end up winning, and it's just going to be like, oh shit, the path to victory was 4 Spurs.
Yeah, I'm at 16 Collins, 12 Sohan.
Yeah.
4 Keldon Johnson.
But 900% of Trey Jones.
Yep.
Any Wemby, 7,900 power forward center. I don't really see the path.
I don't have him. Like I would love to, but it's just, again, if you want to make the case that, he's getting 4% ownership and he's going under owned, I think that's a very reasonable case. The problem is the price tag though. Like I have a hard time playing him over Julius Randle, Evan Mobley. Like again, I'm not getting a lot of Mobley at the moment, but playing him over Evan Mobley. You have centers that are cheaper and look really good. And then you have those guys to pay up for. So that price point's kind of getting squeezed for me. Whereas again, somebody like Trey Jones just fits into those builds a lot easier.
I wish that I had more to say here for San Antonio. I don't. Is Charles Bassey in the backup center conversation for you?
Yeah, I don't have him, but he's certainly in there. I don't have much Hartenstein either. I have 4% Hartenstein, no Bassey. I have a bunch of Eubanks, which whatever, but
all right. Before we continue, you guys see the banner at the top of the screen. Bet365 is the sponsor of this video. They're also there's an OddsShopper banner at the bottom. OddsShopper is going to help you out using Bet365, but you guys can sign up now if you're living in the state of Kentucky, Ohio, New Jersey, Virginia, Iowa, or Colorado. Unfortunately for you guys in Kentucky, I know that it was bad before. It got worse. No longer does the $1 promotion exist for Kentucky. Everybody's got the same. Bet 5 to get 150. So if you didn't get out after taking that bonus, Kentucky peeps, you missed your shot. Now you only get 150. But I don't want to undersell this. Bet 5 to get 150 is an exceptional deal. Imagine if there was a deal on the DFS side where you put in a $5 entry and ended up with $150 after that. Everyone would want to take advantage of it. If you're in one of these states, take advantage of this Bet365 offer. Get yourself $150. Start building out a little bit of a bankroll. You do have to be 21 or over to do this. 18 or over in Kentucky. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. The Phoenix side of this one is basically the opposite of San Antonio. Here are the ownership numbers for the top 7 dudes for Phoenix today. Eubanks, 24. Eric Gordon, 28. Grayson Allen, 29. Jordan Goodwin, 38. Josh Okogie, 37. Jusuf Nurkic, 43. And Kevin Durant, criminally underowned at 40%. So much ownership going to Phoenix. Start wherever you want.
Yeah, I mean, Durant, I think, is where you start, but there's so much to like here. And it's not just one site either. DraftKings, FanDuel, both. These guys are getting a ton of ownership. Durant, 40% on DraftKings, 44 on FanDuel, 36% chance of being optimal on FanDuel, 28 on DraftKings. 28% at 10,500 is just, a pretty high number. And it just, on these short slates, it's so difficult to make up the raw points when you're talking about the guy that's likely to be the highest scorer on the slate. When you have larger slates, it becomes easier to say, okay, well, if Kevin Durant goes for 52, 53 DraftKings points, you probably won't need that because you're going to be able to just have some set of 7, 8, 9K guys that also get 50 points. There's just fewer of those guys on a shorter slate, obviously. So those raw points just have a higher chance of being what you need. Like there's a lot of times you can play this slate out. Durant goes for 54, 55, and he's the highest scorer by 6, 7 points, and you're just going to need that. So he's showing up for me a ton. I mentioned before, right now, my highest owned player on DraftKings at about 85%. Clearly not going to have a problem with that, playing without Booker, playing without Beal, good matchup. But beyond him, Nurkic is showing up a ton for me as well, getting him in around half my lineups. He's projected for 43% ownership, $6,700. Eubanks is getting 24% ownership. He is really interesting. I think he's a good play. I'm getting a lot of him right now. I do think when I redo my lineups before lock, I'm going to put a little bit, again, like I don't want to necessarily set rules saying I can't have Eubanks and Nurkic together, but I didn't really do anything in my initial crunch for this show that it negatively impacted Eubanks. So I have a lot of Eubanks, a lot of Nurkic, and I would certainly like to just kind of turn some of that Eubanks with Nurkic into Hartenstein with Nurkic or Bassey with Nurkic. Again, I don't think that you need to have zero Eubanks and Nurkic together because he can still be better than Hartenstein, better than Bassey. He can be, the best sub 4K guy, even in his normal role. But I think that getting a ton of them together isn't exactly what I would like to do. But individually, both of them look very good.
Yeah, I'm a little bit lighter on Eubanks. I'm getting to the field on Nurkic. I'm getting to the field on Okogie. I'm getting to the field on Goodwin. A little bit over on Allen, a little bit under on Eric Gordon. How do you see that dynamic between Gordon and Allen?
Yeah, so they're both getting ownership, 27 to 30% on DraftKings. I'm under the field on both. I have 18% Allen. I have 16% Gordon. I'm also under the field on Jordan Goodwin. I have 18% of him. I'm actually a little bit under on Okogie too. He's 37% owned. I have 26. So I'm over on Durant, Nurkic, and at the moment Eubanks, and then under on the rest of this team. But I'm still getting to them. It's not like I just don't have these cheap guys. I just don't have them as much. But again, that could just easily be a function of Amir Coffey showing up in half my lineups. Once I start getting rid of him, guys like Allen and Gordon and Okogie kind of just have to start showing up more.
Any interest in Nas Little or Yuta Watanabe as pay down options?
They are guys that I think if you're building the way that I am right now, where I have 45% coffee, I think some of that coffee should be being turned into Watanabe and Nas Little.
Agreed.
I don't think it's a necessity that you build that way, but having 60% Dean Wade and 45% coffee and no Little or Watanabe or Niang or guys like that doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
Yeah, that's you would much rather that be 20 coffee, 10 Little, 10 Watanabe than
I'd rather be a little bit over the field on all of those guys if I'm going with this approach of jamming the highest projected guys, as opposed to saying all right, I'm just going to guess that Dean Wade and Amir Coffey are the
I'm with you on that
you need today.
What did you say you had for Durant earlier?
Percentage wise?
Yeah.
86.
Okay. Yeah, I got 74 right now. I honestly hope it goes up.
Yeah, I mean, you're just never going to look at that one and be upset about it. At the same time, if I go from 86% Durant to 50-55, but the result is that I'm losing my Dean Wade and Amir Coffey, I'm not going to be too upset about that either.
Is there anything else we really need to touch on for Phoenix? I don't think there's too much weird stuff. We know who's going to be, we know who's expected to get the playing time. And I think those guys are just going to be out there a ton. I think the reason that they're all getting that ownership is pretty reasonable.
Yeah, agreed completely.
Trying to look through chat. We got 2,100 people in here. We're over 300 likes. Chat's crazy. That's for sure. The amount of
better than Wemby.
Wait, what?
I said you don't think that Bol is better than Wemby?
How do people come up with this stuff? I don't understand. Whew. I can't even imagine wanting to type that. You should immediately just lose the internet. You should just your whole keyboard should just disappear or evaporate or something. It's crazy. The people that are jumping to conclusions in 3 games of a rookie is just craziness. It's so crazy.
To be fair, people were trying to make the Bol comp prior to the season even starting.
Yeah, that's not the one. That's not the one. Oh man.
I was, I guess, probably 13, and obviously the internet was much different. Did people have takes like this on LeBron? He's the same as some guy that can't even hold an NBA job.
Yes. Yeah. You can go back and see all these quotes of I don't think this high school kid's just going to come in and be able to do those things. Yeah, no, it's all out there. Everybody shit all over it. It was nonsense. It's did you look at him? He may be 18, but that is not the body of an 18-year-old kid. Like,
yeah, I mean, at least Wemby, like, it's like, okay, yeah, he's gonna need to grow a bit, but like, that's obviously he's still very skilled. But yeah, I mean, like, LeBron was just a freak.
Yeah, like it's insane. It's insane to think about. All that does is just make me think more and more. How in the world did anyone pass on Luka Doncic?
Well, he's slow.
But like, we had him playing against real dudes for years.
The fact people don't realize that like Europe has professional basketball players is really funny.
It's craziness. Like, he played against grown adults for 5 years at a professional level. It couldn't have been much more obvious. It's nuts. Cheshire Cat. LeBron James is one of the best NBA's best players of all time. Not just one of the best.
Yeah,
the best.
But yes,
the best. But
yeah, the reason that I mentioned LeBron is that Wemby, by most sane people, is considered the best prospect since LeBron. And then we have other people saying that he is not as good as Bol, who cannot play in the NBA.
James Perkins asked, how do teams pass on Jokic? I mean, he looked like a fat, sloppy white dude for a bit. Lots of people in the analytics community were all over him getting taken way earlier than he did. But nobody was like, oh, he's going to be this. Like, this wasn't in the range of outcomes for Nikola Jokic for any sort of scouting. But a lot of people were high on him early, and he basically dominated from the moment he got into the league. Anything else for Phoenix?
No.
All right, folks. You guys know
Bol can't play in the NBA. Did you watch him in Denver? I think the Nuggets probably did before they got rid of him.
Yeah, that's the word you're looking for there is Orlando.
Right.
Maybe. But if you watched him in Denver, you must have been a pretty big fan, because that was not a place that he was getting a lot of run, unless you were really excited about summer league games and preseason games. But no, if Bol should be in the league, he'd be playing right now. Sure isn't. Watch the NBA Live Before Lock show after this. They will start it up at 6:30, take you all the way until 7:30. You guys should also go to stokastic.com/avatar, get our logo, put it in for DraftKings or FanDuel, both of them, and anywhere you want to. Because if you finish top 3 in a contest of 5,000 or more, and tweet that result to @StokasticHOF, you get a free month of Stokastic, up to $200 value. You can only do it once a year, but if you're not giving yourself the opportunity to scoop up some freebies just from a dub, you're just leaving money on the table. Honestly, there's no risk to this. It costs you absolutely nothing. If you're ever interested in getting the tools, this is a great way to do it with no cost to you.
People keep saying Bol is in the league. We just talked about a Phoenix team missing Bradley Beal and Devin Booker, being down a bunch of bodies, and Bol's name never even came up as somebody that's going to step on the floor. So if you want to count that as being in the league, by all means, but I don't.
Yeah, I don't get it. What are we doing here? At no point did I say he's not in the league. He just doesn't play, which might as well be not in the league.
Right.
He'll be in somewhere else soon enough. Yeah, he's got to be bummed. Like, I still can't play, man.
Right.
We got 70-something minutes of our starting lineup out. Usman, just shut up. How about that? One of the more annoying people that show up here. How's that? Happy Halloween. Orlando Magic are 6-point dogs in Los Angeles, 220 total. Maybe Orlando is just as bad as San Antonio. 26% ownership coming into Markelle Fultz, 27% coming into Wendell Carter Jr., and then it's just like a scattering of Franz, Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs. How are you handling the chalk Magic?
I'm getting a ton of Wendell Carter on DraftKings, getting like 2x the field. He's projected for about 26% ownership. Getting a bunch of Fultz, getting about 36% there. He's projected for 26%. I know when I did the lineup generator videos earlier, I was getting Fultz as my highest owned guy on FanDuel as well. which no real issue with that. He's $5,400. He's getting 61% ownership there, which is problematic, but he still has a 41% chance of being optimal, which is just massive. And it speaks to, you have to roster 2 point guards there, and he's cheap. Yeah. So just a really good play there. Banchero looks better on FanDuel than DraftKings. I will say again, in the lineup generator video earlier, Banchero was one of the guys getting a lot of ownership that I was not getting to. Doesn't mean he's a bad play, just wasn't showing up for me. But 42% ownership, 27% chance of being optimal. Wendell Carter, not nearly as good a play on FanDuel as on DraftKings. 9% ownership, 13% chance of being optimal. Whereas on DraftKings, you're looking at about 26, 27%, and 24%. So I think Fultz, like I said, getting to him on DraftKings, a better play on FanDuel, but good play on either site. Carter looks a lot better on DraftKings than FanDuel.
I am under the field on every single Orlando Magic player.
Kind of wish I was, but.
No, 22% of Carter, 15 of Fultz, 3 of Suggs, 2 of Franz Wagner. And I'm a Franz Wagner guy.
Yeah, Carter and Fultz are the only ones I'm getting to.
Yeah, me too. But just, less than I would have expected. I do wish I had a little bit more of Orlando here. I'm surprised they're this big of dogs.
I don't even know what the line is.
They're 6-point dogs in LA. Like, a little shorthanded. I mean, I guess, if Kawhi and PG are there, I guess the line isn't all that crazy, but,
Back to back also.
Yeah. Is it that bad if you never leave Los Angeles, though?
It's not that bad. I mean, probably, yes.
This Orlando team doesn't strike me as the team that, went out and had a rough night.
I think any group of rich 20-something-year-olds would strike me as a group that probably went out and had a rough night.
So I think they're more likely to go out tonight.
I don't know their travel schedule.
Yeah, neither do I. Let's see. Do they play? If they've got 2 days off, then they're absolutely going out tonight. Let's find out. They play again on Thursday. So maybe. They're in Utah, though, so they're probably staying out west. Maybe they go out. They probably don't fly directly to Utah tonight.
I'll say I would assume that they are prioritizing staying in LA and not going to Utah as long as they can.
I would rather go to Utah than Los Angeles for sure.
With their money, I would rather be in LA.
No, I would still rather be in Utah. Yeah, for sure. Well, we don't have to act like they're going to rural Utah.
No, they're going to Salt Lake City, which I've heard is a really pretty place and everything. But yeah, I'll take LA.
No, I don't. I'm going to Utah. Not even up for debate. All I know is anybody that I know that is in the general Los Angeles area is a real loser.
I mean, yes, obviously, but again,
why would anybody want to be anywhere near Jordan Klein?
Yeah, I mean, Jordan and Eric don't have the money.
Oh, I didn't even think about Eric.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yes, S&P nailed it. I'm a huge fan of soaking. So, anytime I can get to the motherland for it, I'm going to try to be there. Josh is not fun to hang out with. Yeah, that's probably true.
I never really had a problem with it before, but now that you're vehemently arguing for Salt Lake City over LA for entertainment purposes, I'm reconsidering.
It's too busy. I don't want to have to leave for a dinner reservation 2 hours before my food is ready. It's just insanity. There's too many people, man. It's too many people.
You can just pay for the people to just not be around you, right?
Sort of, yeah. Or I could just go to Utah and it's very nice. That's my plan. Josh is trying to get into polygamy. No, I'm not enough man for that.
Yeah, I think we were talking about that before the show started yesterday.
I don't have it. It's hard enough for one. I can't add more to the list. If it were 1920, maybe, but not now. Anyway. Travis in the house with the super chat. Hey, Adam, talk about why you blocked Eric for a month. He brought it up on the Live Before Lock show yesterday, so I have to inquire on a slow day.
I don't remember doing that, but my guess would either be he was whining too much, he was being really annoying, probably both of those at the same time. I don't remember doing it, though, so I can't say for sure.
Yeah. It's just like, it's like breathing. You're not even surprised that it happened.
Yeah.
It was so meaningless to you that you didn't even keep it around either. All right, let's close this bad boy out. We got about 12 minutes to go before we go to live before lock. Actually, no, we probably have a little bit more that we could touch on here for Orlando. Like, should we be looking at Gary Harris or Joe Ingles or Mo Wagner at 4K? There is no John Isaac for tonight, which I don't think anybody's surprised by. I don't have a clue who the 10th guy is going to be for Orlando today, so I don't think that matters too much. But should we be looking at some of these bench Orlando dudes?
I don't really think so. Like, I have a really hard time getting to any of those guys. To me, of the guys that we didn't really talk about, Suggs is the most interesting. I mentioned him this morning. He's 4,800. Playing time should be there for that price tag. Should probably end up with like a 20-21% usage rate on average. But if he gets hot, obviously he can shoot a little bit more. So I'm not getting to him. Like I said, the only guys I'm getting to right now, at least, are Carter and Fultz. But yeah, we didn't really mention him. And I don't remember if we mentioned Cole Anthony. I think he's a perfectly fine flyer as well. Like, Cole Anthony is somebody where I mentioned I'm getting a bunch of Trey Jones. I ideally would like some of that Trey Jones to just be Cole Anthony because they're pretty comparable plays. But, it's not for me right now, but I think they should be viewed that way.
I don't have anybody that matters for this team, so I guess I don't have any sort of leg to stand on. Clippers are going to be a little bit different. We definitely have to spend some time here. So the Clippers, per the injury report, will be without... By the way, so I guess the trade hasn't gone through yet?
I don't know.
Well, because Marcus Morris is out as a coach's decision, and that hasn't changed in the injury report all day. So I'm going to assume that trade is not official yet, because I don't think they'd be listing Marcus Morris on the injury report if they didn't have to. Q-tag on Norm Powell. Q-tag on Ivica Zubac. No Brandon Boston, no Terrence Mann, and obviously no Marcus Morris. You're also not going to see Robert Covington, Nick Batum, or KJ Martin tonight. We have 20% ownership coming into Bones Highland, 23% ownership coming into Kawhi Leonard, 22% coming into Russell Westbrook, just 15 to Paul George, and 43 to the guy that I think is the best play for today, $4,400 point guard, shooting guard, Norm Powell. Let's start with Powell.
What I would like to be doing, or what I am doing.
You're about to tell me that you don't have him?
I have like 20%.
Wild. How do you feel about that?
Not good. The only guy on this team right now that I am over the field on is Coffee, and I don't feel good about that at all. And I think it's likely it'll change by lock.
You're going to be pretty unique tonight.
Yeah, I mean, trying to win, I guess. But I think Powell's a good play. I think he's going over owned. I mean, we have him with a 24% chance of being optimal, 43% ownership. On FanDuel, it's 10% chance, 11% chance of being optimal, 14% ownership. But he's much more expensive on FanDuel. So, like, FanDuel, he's just kind of a guy. On DraftKings, he is one of the best point per dollar projections at $4,400, point guard, shooting guard eligible. But I think it's a combination. My assumption on why I'm not getting a ton of him is that he's only guard eligible. Now, it is both guard spots on DraftKings, but still, it's just harder to find forwards. And he's getting a ton of ownership. So again, like, I'm getting a bunch of Trey Jones, but even if you wanted to ignore that, say, turn some of that Trey Jones into Cole Anthony, be overweight on both. They're only like $600 to $1,000 more expensive than Powell is. I think that there are just guard options in that range that you can get to. Same goes for Bones Highland. Like, I'm getting some quickly. We talked about, I'm getting a lot of Fultz. I'm getting a decent amount of Jalen Brunson. So I think it's probably the positional eligibility combined with the ownership. And I think the positional eligibility too is why you see such a big gap between his ownership and his optimal percentage. Because if he had like shooting guard, small forward, like he should, he would be a lot more valuable, and you would see that optimal percentage probably at like 35, 36%, a lot more in line with the ownership.
I have 97% of Powell right now.
Sounds like a good time.
I mean,
sounds
like,
more
it immediately gives me pause because it's me when I take these stands, but
sure.
If I were going to pick one dude, he's pretty close to the top of the list if it's not Durant.
Yeah, I think he's one of the best values just from a point per dollar projection, like median standpoint. I think that, and it's reflected, in our tools, there are a lot of ways, because the thing is, and this kind of goes back to the positions too, it's not just a matter of how does Norm Powell do relative to his salary. He can have a good game and just be completely useless. from a fantasy standpoint, depending on what the other guards do. And that's why I think it's so important that he doesn't have that forward eligibility.
Absolutely. How do you want to handle Kawhi and Paul George, who 23% ownership to Kawhi, 15 to George? I don't want to say oddly low, but it feels oddly low for a 3-gamer.
It does. And that said, I'm not getting to either one. Also, in the lineup generator video I did earlier for FanDuel, Kawhi was one of the guys at near the top in ownership that I just wasn't getting to. He's projected for 40% ownership there, 32% chance of being optimal. I think he showed up in like 15% of my lineups using the lineup generator, which again doesn't mean he's a bad play. Just like I was saying with Banchero, it's just he happened to be the one kind of getting kicked out pretty frequently while I was getting to a lot of the other highest owned guys. So clearly not going to be upset about getting to George or Kawhi or Westbrook, but I'm really not right now. Like I'm getting Brunson in the same price range as Westbrook. I'm not. I think it's another situation too, sort of like we had yesterday, where I'm just not really getting to a lot of the guys in this price range other than Julius Randle, Kevin Durant, Donovan Mitchell. That doesn't leave me a lot of room to be getting $7, $8, $8,500 guys.
Yeah. I think people probably look at this one too, where like, look, Kawhi and Paul George both look totally fine today. They're not massive fantasy point per minute dudes. They're both like 1.2 dudes, generally speaking. But the immediate thought is, oh, well, like the Clippers are missing a bunch of guys, so X. But like those 3 dudes getting traded are totally meaningless to what's going to happen today for Kawhi Leonard and Paul George.
Right. Yeah. I saw somebody I don't remember who said something in chat about the ownership of those guys being surprising given what they're missing. That the guys missing affect Powell and Highland and hopefully in my case, Coffee. They're the guys that the minutes are opening up for them. Kawhi's minutes are already there. George's minutes are already there. Westbrook's minutes are already there. And getting rid of Robert Covington and Nick Batum is not creating any more offensive opportunities for Kawhi Leonard, Paul George.
It's probably less.
Right, yeah. Like, if you're giving those minutes to Bones Highland is a lot more likely to just be looking off Kawhi and George and doing his thing than Nick Batum or Covington would. So overall, I think it's just kind of a neutral thing for them, whereas it does at least open things up for Powell, for Highland, for some combination of wings.
Let's see. How do you feel about Bones? I don't like having 20%, but the good news is, by the way, if Norm Powell happens to get ruled out, Bones Highland's $100 cheaper with the same eligibility. So at least you have a hot swap that's super simple to use.
Yeah, that swap will be really useful if it happens. Highland, to me, is just another guy where I wouldn't be upset if I were getting to more of him because we know he can score. We know that the minutes should be fine for a $4,300 price tag. But he is getting 20% ownership. 20% ownership on DraftKings, about 12 on FanDuel. I'm getting around 8-9%.
Yeah, I have 23, which I don't really want. Similarly, how are you handling Zubac and Mason Plumlee, another center combination?
Yeah, so I don't have either one. Plumlee, I think, is more interesting on FanDuel. Talked about it in my video on Twitter earlier, but he's 4,200 there, getting at least earlier, getting like 4% ownership. Now it's at, still 4%. So it's not somebody that I think you should be going crazy with, but there's a little bit easier path to him paying that off. Because like if Zubac gets in foul trouble, this obviously with the assumption that Zubac even plays, but if Zubac gets in foul trouble, you know that Plumlee is getting those minutes and he's a productive player when he's out there. Yeah. So 4,200, the opportunity cost on FanDuel is a little bit higher because you only have one center, but it's just easier for Plumlee to pay that off. 4,900 on DraftKings, you probably really need like Zubac's foul trouble. If Zubac sits, Plumlee's like the best center player on the slate. But assuming Zubac is in, you probably really need that foul trouble. Like it's really hard for Plumlee to put up a score at 4,900 that you like need to have without something happening to Zubac. Whereas FanDuel, he can sort of just backdoor 24 points and that end up being really useful in your lineup over there. So wouldn't go crazy with him there, but I do think he's kind of an interesting low-owned contrarian play. Whereas DraftKings, he's low-owned, he's contrarian, but it's just so tough to actually get to that price tag. And I kind of have the same issue with Zubac at 5,800. I'm just getting so much Nurkic and Wendell Carter getting, 50 to 55% a piece of those guys in that price range that there's not really much left for Zubac.
I have 7%. again, the good news is here, if you have Zubac in a lineup and he happens to be ruled out, Mason Plumlee's $1,000 cheaper, and he's probably going to project better than Zubac does right now. So it's an easy swap for you, and you free up $1,000.
Yeah. And as far as, comparing him to Wendell Carter and Nurkic, obviously those guys are getting more ownership. Carter's getting about double the ownership. Nurkic, I think, is getting like triple the ownership. But I have Nurkic projected like 8-9 points better than Zubac. I have Carter projected 5 or 6 better. So it's a spot where, like, yeah, the lack of ownership to Zubac is appealing. He obviously can beat those guys, but they don't project particularly close for me.
Colin, I don't think that's true. I don't think that it's true that the Clips have 11 players available. I think they have more. I just want to confirm this for right now, but yeah, they definitely have more than 11, because I've got 10 in. Jordan Miller. Oh yeah, Josh Primo's suspended for one more game, so that one would not count. Sorry, I thought it was 12, but I thought I was thinking that Primo was available. Primo is not available for today. Well, counting them in DK is not the place to count them. That much I could tell you. That's not going to tell you who's available for the Clippers. But yeah, Josh Primo still serving the 4th of 4 game suspension for his antics last year with the Spurs.
That's a word.
It is a word. We haven't talked about Russ at all. Let's close with it. 7,100, 22% owned, point guard only. I have 9%. I find him difficult to get to, which means he's probably going out and putting up 15, 15, and 15 tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm having trouble getting to him as well. The playing time should be there. You know that he's going to attempt to score a lot. But at that price tag, there's just, and that position, there's just other guys that I'm getting to. As far as how many players they have, did we settle on 11? Because I'm looking at their roster right now.
It's 11. I was counting Primo because he is legitimately like a dude that could be available here. He just happens to be not available today specifically. So it is 11.
Is Diabate available?
He is.
Okay.
It'll be Musa Diabate and Jordan Miller are both on 2 ways.
Okay, because I'm still counting 10.
I've got 10, including Diabate, plus Jordan Miller makes 11.
Okay.
Coffee, Bones,
Zubac,
Leonard, Kobe Brown, Mason Plumlee, Diabate, Powell, George, Westbrook. That makes 10. Leonard makes 11. Or sorry, Jordan Miller makes 11.
Okay. Yeah, I probably just miscounted.
Yeah. Karis LeVert out. Well, that's Donovan Mitchell will play, but Karis LeVert out means I'm going to go back to the drawing board with the 53% Karis LeVert that I had before this started. And we are going to turn this one over to NBA Live Before Lock. They will break down the Cleveland news that just happened. Thank you guys for being here. Hit the like button on your way out the door. 2,700 people for this 3-gamer. It's good to see you guys. Good luck, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. It's going. Just sorry.
What is happening, guys? I cannot be more excited for the show to start. And you guys are going to find out why in about 30 seconds or so. We have the Halloween NBA Live Before Lock. We got 3 basketball games, which I'm excited about. It's not what I'm most excited about for the show. What I am excited about is that we're sponsored by Bet365. As you guys come into his favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Now, Jordan, I would like you to put yourself on screen next to Eric on screen, and then people could find out what it is that Eric is dressed up as for Halloween. Are you guys both on screen now together? Look at that. So Eric is dressed up as Jordan Klein for Halloween, and probably one of the best Halloween costumes I've ever seen. It's a very, very inside joke, but this is how Jordan dresses every day. People don't even realize that this is how Jordan dressed showing up for the show today. And look, could not look it. Honestly, it's going to be hard for me to look at my screen over here and tell which is Eric and which is Jordan.
Like, dude, it's like so good to like be here with you today doing like the show. And like, here's like the thing is that like, I'm very, I don't like, dude, I don't even chill. Okay. Like, dude.
So something else that people may be missing out on when it comes to Eric's costume here is that Jordan is very, very frequently some of the worst posture I've ever seen on a human being. So if there's any evidence needed that humans are in some way a relative of distant apes, it's Jordan Klein's posture when he's sitting on a chair where he's never really quite fully upright, which Eric has really nailed to a T here. Although usually we can only see the very top of Jordan's head while we're doing shows, but this is good work, Eric, and add it to the list of your very many accomplishments that you've had since working here.
Thank you. Like, so good to be a part of like, I don't know. I'm going to talk like the basketball for like the first time. And like, here's the thing. Like, I don't even know, dude. Like, it's going to be fun though.
I'm going to ask you one question though, or make one request. I'm going to need you to not do the entire hour and a half show in character.
Okay. That's fair.
Because eventually I'm gonna have to converse with somebody who lives in the real world and is not just watching Twitch streams and is high all the time. Like I also need a sober partner to talk about basketball with here.
Still gonna be leaning back.
that looks more like Cartman in the South Park episode when he gets into gaming, when you're sitting back like this. But great costume, Eric. And if you guys haven't liked the video and subscribed to the YouTube channel for Eric's costume, that's the reason to do it, if nothing else. And Jordan, also an avid Clippers fan, so also nailed that to a T. We've got news as well. So some of the news I didn't think we were going to be getting for a minute here, but we just found out that Caris LeVert is out. Donovan Mitchell's in. We still have Norman Powell listed as questionable. Ivica Zubac's listed as questionable. Since we do have some big Clippers fans here with us, maybe that will help us try to parse that situation. But first, with the Cavs news, official now. LeVert out, Mitchell in. I don't even know if these guys had time to get to it at the end of the show because the news broke just as their show was ending. What do you make of Mitchell being in without LeVert? We're going to start with Donovan Mitchell, and then we'll talk about the other pieces on Cleveland.
Donovan Mitchell seems like somebody you should play in the game of DFS. This is another ceiling that we kind of add to the equation. Somebody that, Kevin Durant obviously is rightfully Kevin Durant on any given slate, but like Donovan Mitchell, he kind of jumps up the board for me in a pretty drastic way here. Nice to see him in. And then you get the bump of no Darius Garland, no Caris LeVert. He is going to chuck. Like, he's going to chuck like nobody has chucked before. I feel pretty good about him being somebody that I want to have a little bit more exposure to. Now, this news did break quite early, but at the guard position, he's going to be my highest owned guard. I don't think it's going to be relatively close. Probably going to be my highest owned player on the slate.
I was hoping LeVert was going to play because I was planning on being underweight to the field to Mitchell in favor of getting to more Durant. I kind of thought about this as the day went on, is that I wanted to favor Durant just to give myself more flexibility for late swaps as the night went on. Now I kind of feel like it's difficult to do that because Mitchell, like you said, he's going to have to take so many shots in the absence of Caris LeVert. I don't want to be going like 90% Mitchell or anything like that just because I still do want to have myself some flexibility because we have Norman Powell and Ivica Zubac's questionable to play in that late night game. And I don't think people are going to be swapping as much as they should those guys be ruled out, because that's always what happens in NBA DFS, where there isn't enough late swapping that's going on. But I agree with you. As far as Donovan Mitchell goes, if we're just talking about projections and nothing else being considered, he is the pay up option to get to on the slate pretty clearly, and could potentially have more value that opens up later as well. The Caris LeVert angle as well. What value do you see opening up from the Cavaliers, where Mitchell's a good pay up option, but are there any cheapies you like getting to?
Yeah, we'll kind of see here. I'm running some stuff as it stands right now. For some reason, when I take Caris LeVert, Darius Garland off the court here in NBA Wowie, I'm trying to export that into my spreadsheet. It keeps Darius Garland on the floor. That's a little bit frustrating. Don't know why that's happening right now. So I'm trying to reset that. But I'm going to have Donovan Mitchell for higher than a 30% usage that he had alongside Darius Garland. But this really does, like, we have to remember, we don't have Chetty in there anymore. We have Max Strus who gets added there. It's going to be probably some Isaac Okoro, maybe some Dean Wade. I mean, there's going to be some really disgustingness that we're looking at. You still don't have Ty Jerome playing there. Maybe you see some extra minutes there for somebody like on the far extreme end. George Niang, not completely out of play here. He's only played around 20 minutes in the first 3 games. Extremely shot dependent, but it's a 3-game slate. In terms of trying to find things to be a little bit different with, I'm just kind of looking all the way down the bench for the Cleveland side and think you can kind of take random shots on guys. If somebody gets hot like a George Niang on a 3-game slate with tons of utility, that gives you 2.5 hours to figure out how you want to construct your lineups before you get to the evening window.
And then also, because it's kind of related, how much, and we talk about these all the time, but it's very important, especially for a 3-game slate. Somebody like George Niang is definitely a player that I'm kind of conflicted about, because how much of a guy like Niang, who's, like fringy, I think if you're projecting him for like 20 plus fantasy points, you're doing it wrong. But if you're projecting for fantasy points like the mid to high teens, I think that's reasonable. But how much for a player like him are you willing to get to, with the understanding you could be foregoing Clippers value later?
Yeah, it really, I mean, it's going to depend on what the field does here as we refresh ownership. I'm going to be very, very reliant on it. We're going to get to the flip, and I'm going to be upset about something. I don't know what I'm going to be upset about, but right now, George Niang would not be the guy, if our ownership held true, that I would be upset about. He's played 19, 20, 21 minutes. We only have him projected right around 21 minutes here right now, but he's 1% owned, 0.9% owned. If you give me anybody with shooting dependentness at 1% owned on a 3-game slate, I'm going to be happy taking that shot pretty much every single time. There is going to be usage available, and I mean, Cleveland, obviously, really good value if you got in at plus 130 on the money line there. They came down to plus 110 after Donovan Mitchell went through shoot around, and it kind of became clear he would more than likely be in. But if this game does get wonky on the other side, I mean, there are some Cleveland guys that you could get to try to get different. I mean, not Damian Jones necessarily. That's not going to be somebody I go to. But like even an Amani Bates at 3K, I don't completely write out here. Craig Porter Jr., probably not going to take that shot. Sam Merrill, we've seen him in Milwaukee, now here in Cleveland. So like some of these 3K pieces I could try to do where it's like a lot of Mitchell plus Wemby, maybe not Wemby, but like Kevin Durant, somebody that I'm getting to a ton, obviously. Some of these other like really expensive lineups where if you get that 3K guy that maybe plays 15 or 18 minutes and does something with it, you could be looking at a pretty easy optimization coming into the evening.
We've got a super chat here from Goody. If you guys have any questions for us, leave a super chat or add us in the Discord channel. One of the perks of being a Stokastic Plus Platinum member is that you guys do get to ask us questions about anything and whenever you want. So we have a couple of questions here. We got one from Goody and then a DK Tiers question from Ace of Spade, which I had a feeling that he was going to ask us about DK Tiers. Always appreciate that question from our guy Ace of Spade. First, Goody is asking us, how do you feel about forcing Mitchell and Durant into the same lineup for a DK 20 max GPP? It's going to be hard to do with salary restraints. I have to, when I rebuild my lineups, I could get a sense for how many of my lineups actually have both Durant and Mitchell in. I don't think I'm going to have a ton because you do kind of have to make a choice, one or the other. Here's the scenario I'm going to end up with lineups that have both of them, though, is a late swap scenario, right? So if we do find out that the Clippers guys are out and then just more value becomes available and I start to alter my lineups, that is going to be a situation where I'm probably going to get to a lot of Mitchell and Durant together. As of right now, though, it's probably only going to be a handful of lineups.
Love all the things that you said.
All right, let's go ahead and look at DK tiers from our guy Ace of Spade, who wants to know who our favorite options are. So, Eric, let's start with tier 1, where we have Donovan Mitchell, we have Kevin Durant, we have Paul George. Of these 3 options in tier 1, who's your go-to?
Mitchell.
Mitchell for me as well. It kind of feels weird to be taking Mitchell over Kevin Durant, considering all the players that are out for the Suns. But I mean, Mitchell, I think, is a better fantasy producer in his situation than Durant is in his. But the only real wrong answer I would say is if you're like going with Paul George over the other 2 in one lineup.
Correct.
Tier 2, we have Jalen Brunson. We've got Russell Westbrook, Paulo Banchero, Franz Wagner. I like Jalen. Oh, sorry. I was looking at tier 3.
Yeah, Evan Mobley for me.
Tier 2 would have been Julius Randle, but Evan Mobley for me now that we have the other players out for the Cavs, Karis LeVert most notably. Tier 3, I kind of tip my hand, Jalen Brunson.
Yep, same.
Tier 4, I like Nurkic better than the other options.
Same. Love Nurk for all things today.
Tier 5, Max Strus. He's going to be the answer anyway, but even more so Max Strus now that LeVert is out.
Yep.
And then tier 6, this one is a little bit tougher to find one, but Mitchell Robinson.
Love.
All right. There we go. Thank you very much for the super chat, Ace of Spade. And now let's get into your Los Angeles Clippers here, Eric. And who knows, maybe Jordan could leave us some words of wisdom as well, because he has been outed as such a big Clippers fan from your costume. Norman Powell is questionable. Zubac is questionable. First question, do you have any strong lean on whether either of these guys are going to be in or out?
I do not think Zubac plays.
Okay. And then do you think Norman Powell plays or just questionable and you're unsure?
Questionable. I have no clue.
Okay. So let's talk about the Zubac angle then. If he does sit, is there somebody you are eyeing as a value play that you are most apt to get to?
Yeah, there's no doubt that Mason Plumlee is a guy that I'm just going to make a large stand on and then adjust based on what time that news comes out. You look at center, and for me, looking at the first game, the Knicks-Cleveland game, you have power forward center Mobley, power forward center Randle. Mitchell Robinson's really the only guy that you're missing out on. I suppose Hartenstein there, 3,500. You could always run into, the 26 minutes he had in the first game. He gets going in that unit, that second unit. They keep Hartenstein on the floor. They're just happy to do that. And we know Mitch Robinson can run into some foul trouble. But I think what happens is with the power forward center eligibility is I don't really need those other 2 Knicks guys. I don't feel like I'm foregoing some kind of a crazy ceiling there. I think just keeping your center spot available, playing those guys at the forward spots and making sure that you have availability for Plumlee. Because at 4,900, Eric, he's only averaging what he's going to play so much in the event that you don't have Zubac in there. He would probably be my highest owned piece of value on the entire slate, period, end of story. You also have Covington, obviously, that's now no longer there. So, I mean, you have the guy that was going to be a starter. This starting lineup could look insane in a lot of iterations. And so, Batum has been there and now gone as well. I mean, it's going to be Mason Plumlee having to play 35 minutes more than likely. They'll probably use Diabate, who was somebody that actually existed last season at certain periods of time. I remember that Portland game specifically where he had a pretty decent outing, but Diabate, they could bring into action there if need be. But for me, I feel like I'm just locked and loaded here with the Mason Plumlee play because I already have him in for 20 minutes. That would nearly double in the event that it's him. You're going to talk about Amir Coffey. We're going to talk about Bones Highland. I think there's a lot of minutes available for a lot of guys, but specifically that center spot, they feel the most comfortable with Plumlee. He will play a ton.
There are some very, very funny YouTube comments about people speculating what it is you're dressed as, Eric. So a lot of people didn't recognize that it was Jordan that you are dressed as. But some of the top comments that we have in the YouTube chat here, and there's a lot of them. So I don't want to miss anybody's, but
okay, that's important.
Yeah, a couple of these have definitely made me laugh. We had Donnie Boone said that Eric looks like he's a rejected extra for Magic Mike. Yeah, just didn't cut quite enough weight to be able to make it to that final.
Sorry about it.
Dehydrate yourself a little bit more.
Sorry about it. This is also, I owned this in high school. It's like I'm pretty sure I found the tightest thing that I still had in my possession. It was in a box that says "Do not open." I opened it. It was the perfect accessory. I can't help it. Also, I feel like I got to pull this down just a little bit more. There we go. Now we're good.
Yeah. We clearly don't pay. I brought this up before. We have to pay Jordan Klein more because like, he doesn't have enough money to buy fabric. His shirts don't have sleeves. They are the deepest V's you've ever seen. Like his nipples are typically close to showing when he's dressed up for work. So yeah, we got to get.
Don't worry, I have nipple clamps part of the costume underneath. I'm good.
Ooh, boy, that's commitment.
Well, I mean, whenever he comes over, he wears them. So I just thought I'd have them here.
All right,
I got to be authentic. He's like, Duke, come over here.
The Prince Charles stud in as well to really round out the costume. We've got some more good ones in the YouTube chat here. Ryan Houston says this is a positive one. He says you are Mr. Thickums for Halloween.
Oh, Mr. Thickums. He thinks I'm Mr. Thickums every day.
And then we've got.
I understand that my posture. I'm leaned as far back as I possibly can and still be comfortable without like craning my neck forward. So because that's the Jordan Klein way. The guy literally does shows like this.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. Flip over. I guess it's because he's got the wall behind him that holds him up.
That's what it is. It's Dubro chill. I was going to hang a Kobe jersey behind me. That would have been the most epic costume choice if I had hung the Kobe number 8. I have that exact jersey in my garage.
Oh, but not that exact one because on the picture that is over Jordan Klein's left shoulder, he got a message written to him by Kobe because they're such close friends.
Yeah. Hey, Jordan, I hope you overcome all your shortcomings and make something of your life. Kobe Bryant.
What is it? Well, I mean, come on. Kobe's a man of motivation here. What does it say? What does it say on the picture, Jordan?
What does it say?
It says to Jordan from Kobe.
Wow, that is very hard.
Oh, man. That is so he took some time. He took some time on that one.
Wow, that's really nice of him to say that about you. In fairness, I don't have very many better compliments to pay Jordan, but that's a heartfelt message.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a celebrity sign anything? They wrote you a nice message?
I have. Mike Krzyzewski.
Ooh, Mike Krzyzewski.
Yeah, he said, to Eric, always follow your heart in pursuit of your dreams. Mike Krzyzewski. I've got it in my kitchen. Jordan Klein's seen it. It was in my old kitchen too. It's a framed thing that he wrote me. It was nice.
I was at a restaurant once and sitting at a table next to Pele when I was a kid. Pele, the Brazilian soccer star who passed away like about a year ago or so. But I met him didn't really meet him. He was sitting at a table. We went up, we took pictures with him. He signed autographs. I was a kid at the time. And he doesn't really speak English at all. He lived in the US for like 30 years and never learned any English, Pele. So when he wrote us, he signed autographs for us and he didn't know like punctuation or anything. So we just wrote best wishes, Pele, but like there's no comma or anything. So it just sounds like he's wishing himself good luck in the autograph. But that's my big celebrity meeting was the time I met Pele. We've got Jordan, who's friends with Kobe, and then Eric, who's friends with Mike Krzyzewski. Interesting.
Yeah, friends. We communicate daily. Yeah.
Yours is still alive, though. Eric and I, so Jordan and I, the ones that we met are both passed away. So we did something wrong.
How is Mike Krzyzewski the guy that's still alive between the three of them? That's pretty wild.
It's just Duke, Matt. Just dark arts that they teach at Duke.
That's what it was. It's whatever got Christian Laettner not kicked in the nuts by somebody when he was in college. He was a jerk. You go back and watch it. It's like, I can't believe I cheer for that guy. But I was also like 4 when I decided that I was a Duke fan. So it is what it is.
Carlos Manzo in the chat said I could have just said Pele. I'm not sure that's true. In general, I would think the majority of people know who Pele is, but I would assume that there's probably people in our YouTube chat that don't know who Pele is, which is why I clarified with an explanation of who he is. Getting back to the Clippers, if Norman Powell is out and Zubac, because he said you don't think Zubac is going to play, I think Amir Coffey is somebody who would definitely stand out as a value play. He'd be my go-to guy from the Clippers. I'd be interested to see their starting lineup and what they go with because this is a very thin team. I mean, they just traded away basically all of their depth for James Harden. So if you guys aren't informed on who they traded away, Marcus Morris was in the trade. Robert Covington was in the trade. Nick Batum was in the trade. So guys that would have otherwise picked up these minutes just aren't available. So what value pieces would we look at if Norman Powell's out, who for no reason whatsoever is apparently point guard, shooting guard eligible on DraftKings?
Yeah, I mean, we're playing a ton of Bones Highland. Then 4,300, we would just be playing tons of him. Remember, the Clippers are on a back-to-back. They play the Lakers on Wednesday. And that, I think, puts a little bit of a wrench into like what I'm expecting here. I got to assume that in some capacity, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, one or both sit on the back-to-back here. Maybe they don't, and I'm crazy. We saw the Lakers play on the back-to-back. There's obviously all these different rest rules, and it's a disaster, but like there's at least the hope for me that we're going to get like the full allotment of minutes from George and Kawhi there, and we don't have to go completely crazy and try to make like Kobe Brown a thing. That would be somebody, because again, we're looking at mainly the front court that we would really need to have some size. I think that's going to be a big issue for the Clippers with the James Harden trade here, is that you don't have Batum, you don't have Covington. Like they're going to need some kind of rebounding. So like Diabate wouldn't be completely out of play if something happens to Plumlee, but Kobe Brown could slide over and play some 4. He's played 5 minutes in the last 2. Like, I'm not excited about it. I'm not over the moon about it. I kind of prefer some of the 3K plays to try to take really contrarian darts from the Cleveland side, whether that be, not Sam Merrill. I probably am looking more towards like Niang 3,500. Dean Wade is starting. I assume he plays a bunch, 3,600. But I think for the Clippers, pretty much everybody's in play. You just have to kind of figure out after the fact what happens with some of the Cleveland value and assess from there.
Yeah. And, we're going to have to see also not just who's in or who's out, but then also what some of the starting lineups are going to look like. And we did get the Cleveland Cavaliers starting unit. So in the absence of both all 3 of Karis LeVert, we've got no Jared Allen. We've also got no Darius Garland. This is the starting unit for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Mitchell, Strus, Okoro, Dean Wade, and Evan Mobley. That's what I was expecting, more or less. Same. What you were anticipating as well.
Yeah. And I mean, I have all of them for 34 plus minutes. So that's the other key part of this, is like Dean Wade is in play at 3,600. He's going to be the most popular guy of your 3,600 and down guys, simply because there's a level of certainty in those minutes, barring injury, barring foul trouble. I think what's really uncertain is like when you start dropping below that, where you would have to take the George Niang shot on his own team. You look at Hartenstein. I think he's the main target you're looking at on the Knicks side. Dante DiVincenzo not playing enough minutes to really be viable for me on this kind of a slate where we know something is going to show up from the Clippers more than likely. Maybe it's not. If you get Zubac and Powell in, that's kind of an iffy situation. I would probably try to play some Zubac even at 5,900, hoping that on a back-to-back he would rest. But like my main reason that I think Zubac doesn't play is that it's a back-to-back. It's a right quad contusion. Just give him a day off and play him tomorrow if he's actually questionable. You could kind of say the same thing for Norman Powell to a certain extent, but it's like left foot soreness. If he ends up being in, I think he's just fine to go for both games, and it wouldn't be an issue. It's probably just like a pain tolerance thing. So like I have Powell in right now. I have Zubac out right now, assuming that he's just going to be good to go for the Lakers.
We've got some questions coming in to the Discord channel. First one here, we could do it. We've got a lot of the news. Cap and Akella wants to know who's the nuke of the night. Eric, we're about halfway through the show, so let's start looking at this and try to figure out who we want to label as our nuke of the night. And then also, now that we've got the Cavs news, Jordan, let's build some lineups in the lineup generator after we answer these questions. So we've got a super chat, a few questions in Discord, and then fire up the lineup generator. So we'll look at some lineups in there. But Captain Akella wants to know right at the midway point of the show, nuke of the night. Eric, who are we going with for the nuke of the night?
Nuke Nurk. We're going Nuke Nurk. What's up? Oh, you're playing the video. Okay, play the video.
Yeah. Nuke of the night. All right, so we have to get the timing down of this a little bit.
Yep, we got to work on it.
The timing of this all clearly needs to be made a little bit better. We've got an animation now for the nuke of the night. Good. And next time, we'll figure out the timing of it, so where I could ask Eric. We could play the animation. We'll get the answer afterwards. But just for the purpose of making sure the bit works properly, Eric, who is your nuke of the night? Answer again and pretend you didn't just give away the answer.
Yeah, Nathan Joyce, I got the Stanley. I was never not going to have the Stanley for the bit. But Jusuf Nurkic, nuke of the night. Nuke season. Now, I think both centers are in play from the Phoenix side. Pretty obviously, 3-game slate. One of the best sources of value is generally trying to play a guy like Drew Eubanks and hope that things fall your way. But Jusuf Nurkic, I mean, this is just going to be a guy that I bet his double-double, it was popping on OddsShopper. I thought it was a phenomenal play coming into the day. We saw 23 minutes in an absolute blowout. He's generally going to be playing right around that 28-minute mark, maybe 30 if he really gets it going. But this is a guy that I think is just a much better fit for this Phoenix team, especially when you get Beal and Booker in there. We saw that pick and roll with him and Booker in that opening game. He had the Nurk bucket that solidified that W against Golden State. I think he's just going to be awesome offensively. And year long, he was a guy that I kind of centered in on and made sure that I had on every single team, because I think he's just going to be somebody who outperforms. Now, Drew Eubanks is decent enough where, again, a fantasy point per minute guy so far this season, you want to get there. But Nurk, he's a 1.23 fantasy point per minute guy here right now without Beal, without Booker. That is really interesting stuff for a guy who's 6,700 and projecting to play 28 minutes. So Jusuf Nurkic at the center position, talked about it before. There's a lot of power forward center type value that you can play in conjunction that makes it a little bit wonkier, but I'm making a strong stance on Nurk.
If Norman Powell plays,
do
you, because he's projected for a lot of ownership. We talk about this though a lot, where oftentimes, ownership, it's going to be a measure of the data. And, this is a company of data and science, mathematics, smart people, not dummies like Eric and myself. And since this is so data driven and Norman Powell projects well, he projects for a lot of ownership. I do wonder if he's going to come in with less ownership than projected, just because people are going to be seeing that questionable tag. And it's very, very unlikely to me that we're going to find out whether he's in or out in the next 30 minutes. Prior lock, we know that the field doesn't late swap nearly as much as they should. So Norman Powell, and by the way, if Norman Powell ends up getting ruled out, you could just swap off him yourself. Norman Powell's my nuke of the night, though. How do you feel about that?
I love that call. I love that call. I would, if Norman Powell's in, I'll have 100% of him. Like, I will throw that out there right now. I'm only playing 50 lineups. It's Halloween. I'm going to take this costume off, put another one on, and go head into the night. But pretty positive that I'm going to swap. I'm taking my computer with me. My wife will love that. But I'm 100% going to jam Norman Powell at 4,400. He's a point per minute guy. It's a point per minute guy here under the circumstances this season. With so many pieces gone, he's got to be the guy that they trust the most. Now, Amir Coffey's still going to play in at 3K. That's obviously going to be a very interesting piece. But Amir Coffey has been a 0.5 fantasy point per minute guy so far this season. Over previous seasons, he's never really been better than 0.7. So, he's not a fantasy stud in any way, shape, or form. I love the Norman Powell call. And plus, the mark next to the name. Love seeing that. You love to see it. I'm with you. I don't think he'll be nearly popular enough for that tag with that role.
Yeah, so that's going to be my guy. Nuke of the night for me is Norman Powell. For Eric, he is going with Jusuf Nurkic. Both of them are expected to be really popular, but I know we're trying to make this like a contrarian GPP play, but part of it for me is that I do think Norman Powell is going to end up being lower owned than projected if he plays. The other part of it too is how crazy contrarian can get on a 3-game slate.
Well, the other thing is I'm going to play contrarian pieces, but I don't even necessarily know who they're going to be yet. I think that it just depends on what the Clippers starting lineup is. I mean, I would call my nuke of the night Mason Plumlee if we're going to go on the very low ends of things. He's 0.2% owned. If you get Zubats out, you're going to see Mason Plumlee also just absorb so much ownership. But if we're going to the low owned portion of that, Mason Plumlee, I will have a lot of him, Nurk, in conjunction with one another over on DK. On FanDuel, that's a pain in the ass. Glad I'm not playing there today.
We've got the next question in our Discord channel is coming from Kenny Wayne 256. Kenny wants to know, he says he's not getting any Wemby on DK. Should he be scared? And he feels like he's going to break a slate one night. He's going to break multiple slates this year. I am not playing a lot of Wemby the last few slates for a couple of reasons. Number one, fouls appear to be an issue with them. The playing time is going to be inconsistent. Another thing too is he is somebody who kind of like the inverse of what I said about Norman Powell, and where somebody like Norman Powell, I think, could be lower owned than what is projected just because of the fact that he's the questionable tag. Wemby, on the other hand, is coming way overweight to his ownership projections every single slate this year, because even when he doesn't project all the well, people just want to play Wembanyama. I agree with you. He's going to have some slates where he has a massive ceiling, crushes. But as of right now, I actually do find it fairly difficult to project him for a crazy amount of minutes due to the fact that the Spurs are handling with kid gloves and then also just the foul difficulties that he's run into. What are you doing with Wemby tonight, though?
Yeah, I have 10% of him. I'm not all that enthusiastic about playing him here. After the opening night, I really haven't played him a lot on any slate, and it hasn't burned me. Even the 49 he had, he was 8,100 against Houston. I mean, we need to see one of two things. Either Pop needs to really start just making Wembanyama like a focal point of the offense. I mean, 7 for 19 against Houston. He was pretty inefficient there as well, but like they're not running a lot of sets for him. They're kind of just slowly building up his minutes, slowly building him up in the professional game. They know they're not going to be a very competitive team this season unless Wembanyama just starts playing 36 a night and smashing, but I don't think that's the long-term plan the Spurs have for him for this season. Is he somebody that can be that 1.4 fantasy point per minute guy and make us look very, very stupid for saying this? Yes, but I think you're getting just far more solid minutes and fantasy production from the likes of the Clippers guys. If you want to get contrarian, Paul George, 8,600, going to Kawhi Leonard at 8,500. I think you're getting far more certainty with the Kevin Durant piece, the Donovan Mitchell piece. I mean, there's other fantasy studs that are just projecting for way more minutes and pretty similar fantasy point per minute outcomes. And Wembanyama, I think he's incredible. He's going to be incredible. He's been a 1.17 fantasy point per minute guy. We would expect that to go up a little bit considering the preseason. He was around 1.4, but like, I don't know. It feels like a spot for me that I should just be a little bit lighter on because we've seen so much artificial ownership go his way because of name recognition.
We have another question in here from, where is it? I saw it in here. Oh, here we go. Hef Love wants to know, are we expecting Imani Bates to play any minutes? We got him projected for 12 minutes in our projections, which I think is about reasonable. I view him as somebody who the field is not going to play all that often, nor should they really. He's going to play, a handful of minutes. I feel pretty good about that, but probably not enough to be relevant unless the game's a blowout or somebody else gets into foul trouble.
Yeah, I'm with you.
We've got a question in, a couple super chats coming in, and then we could start building lineups in the lineup generator. But here, a question from, here it is, Mike Verderosa. Mike wants to know thoughts on 2 uniques initially, then switch to 1. So if you're building your lineups in Fantasy Cruncher, especially on a 3-game slate, I think that you are doing yourself a disservice by making yourself do 2 uniques, because there are going to be a lot of lineups where it's just like a 1v1 swap is going to look pretty good. And there's only so many different lineup combinations on a 3-game slate. So I would prefer, if I was in your situation, just building your lineups in Fantasy Cruncher, just do 1 unique.
Yes.
Goody wants to know how many Cavs are too much in each lineup and then the best way to limit that in the Sims. DK20 max. Yeah. So one thing you could do is you can if you feel you're getting to too many Cavs, you could do an ROI boost downgrade to some of the individual Cavs. But the way we have it set up, you shouldn't be getting to too many lineups that have like 4, 5, 6 Cavs or anything like that. It's a 3-game slate. It's smaller. There's some of the best plays on the slate, but it's not like you're going to be getting to lineups that are, like 6 Cavs in them or anything like that.
Correct. Yeah. It's not going to be, I'm looking through my lineups. I'm seeing if I have any. I have some 4s. I've got, the Strus, Mitchell, Wade, Okoro, and I've got some Mobley, obviously. I don't have any with 5. It doesn't look like. I have a lot of 4s.
Next question we have is from D Buff. He wants to know Randle or Mobley for DK. So let's go ahead, if you wouldn't mind, Jordan, pull up the NBA player compare tool. He thought he was being slick, and he was like, don't worry, already ready. I've got the lineup generator good to go. Sorry. I kind of did a pump.
Sorry.
Julius Randle and Evan Mobley are the 2 players that we are comparing. I could say for me, I have a lot of exposure to both of them, but I do have more of Randle.
Yep. Randle.
All right. Let's see what we're getting to here. Look at how close this is. So we have it 49.9% for Randle, 50.1% for Evan Mobley. Considering the difference in ownership, I would lean, it's so close between the 2 of them. It's a coin flip. I'm just going to say Randle because that's who I have more exposure to personally, but you can't go wrong here.
Yeah, it's pretty comparable. I mean, I would assume, like, if we're just thinking about this out loud, if you're building out one lineup, I'm assuming you have Donovan Mitchell. It probably depends how many other Cleveland Cavaliers you're playing there. I'm not thinking about it building out multiple lineups, but like I'm playing like the $40 single entry or whatever. And I was just kind of debating on if I wanted to play one of those two. And it's like, well, the tiebreaker was kind of the fact that I had 3 other Cavs. So I will say, like, I think Julius Randle is going to be somebody that when I finish things out in the next 5 minutes, I'd probably just get more of as well. But you can't really go wrong. They're basically coin flips.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Randle, but both of them are really, really strong options. I wish I had like a stronger take for you, stronger lean, but they're 2 of the better front court players we have of the night. Malcolm Revamp wants to know, what are my core options for a DK $1 GPP and then FanDuel single entry? Yeah, so let's go over core plays for both DraftKings and FanDuel. And Eric, do you have lineups built for both sites or just one today?
For me, I have lineups just on DraftKings today.
Okay, so let's go back and forth with core players at each position. You can do it for DraftKings. I'll do it for FanDuel. I think I could answer Malcolm Revamp's question. Okay. Wants to know the core plays for DraftKings and FanDuel. So, Eric, who are you getting the most of at the point guard spot on DK?
Donovan Mitchell by a mile.
FanDuel for me, it is Markelle Fultz. Donovan Mitchell does not have point guard eligibility over on FanDuel. Shooting guard, who are you getting to the most?
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell and then Norman Powell.
Donovan Mitchell for me at shooting guard. Small forward, DraftKings. What are you looking at there?
Max Strus.
All right. For me, it is going to be Grayson Allen over on FanDuel. He's only $4,200.
Yeah, I saw that.
And just kind of ends up making him a guy to play there over on FanDuel. Power forward. What's standing out to you on DraftKings?
Kevin Durant.
I'm going to be going with Evan Mobley, followed by Julius Randle here on FanDuel. Both of them really strong options. Center. And by the way, part of the reason, actually, I'm going to walk this back a little bit, because one of the reasons I get to more of Mobley than Randle on FanDuel is because Randle's only power forward eligible. Mobley's power forward and center. So I'm going to say Randle at power forward, Mobley at center for me on FanDuel. What are you looking at center, DK?
Yeah, it's going to be, I built it out without Zubats in it, so it's going to be Mason Plumlee, and I can obviously change that if need be.
And then David Smith says that he is a sweet, girthy $100 surplus in a DK GPP with Bones Highland at $4,300. Is this as simple as late swapping him out for Powell if he happens to be ruled in? That's a really easy swap to make. If Powell plays, I'd rather play Powell than Bones Highland. If Powell is out, Bones Highland is somebody who I absolutely want to be jamming in. Is that how you view the Powell Highland dynamic as well?
Yep, I'm going to have one or the other in just about everything I'm doing.
If Powell is in, do you prefer Powell or Bones Highland?
I prefer Powell. I will have a little bit of Bones, but I will have, as I said before, I will have nearly jam Norman Powell. I ran some stuff where I had Zubats and him off, where I just took them off the floor, and I was just getting basically about 100% Powell, 100% Bones Highland.
All right. And by the way, big news here. Baseball, but still, Adolis Garcia taken off the World Series.
And Max Scherzer. So Max Scherzer too. So they're able to replace both and get an extra pitcher in there.
That's rough though, losing Adolis Garcia. It's just had, I mean, the closest comp I could think of is like the Randy Arozarena postseason from a couple of years ago, where Arozarena went nuts. Same sort of deal with Garcia.
So, Jorge Soler in the World Series from 2 years ago, 3 years ago was, or 4 years. That's 4 years now. That's wild.
There's always one outfielder every postseason just hits all of the home runs.
Oh, yeah.
It was Adolis Garcia this year, and unfortunately, he is out now. Let's go build some lineups in the lineup generator, Jordan, that we're doing it for real this time. For real, we're going to build lineups. We can do it for DraftKings and for FanDuel. We'll see what ends up standing out the most here. And Sotek saying, why did they take off Adolis? He got hurt last night. I think it was, they said a side injury, which I take to mean oblique. So. Yeah. Let's go contrarian, since it's only a 3-game slate, Jordan. We'll see what ends up popping up making contrarian lineups. Save some. And then we'll go ahead and look at the exposures at the end. And then we'll do the same exercise for FanDuel afterwards. But the players we're getting to the most of on DK here, surprise, surprise, lots of Cleveland Cavaliers. Donovan Mitchell, Julius Randle, Evan Mobley, Isaac Okoro, Max Strus, Jalen Brunson, Devin Vassell, Dean Wade. Those are our players that we got to 40+% of over on DraftKings. Is there anybody that you're getting to a bunch of on DK, Eric, that is not amongst those names that we're getting to the most of here?
No, I'm not getting to a ton of Jalen Brunson, and it's uncomfortable. I love Jalen Brunson, kind of a stand for him to a certain extent, but I know he's 7,700, but the minutes coming off of last season, and I had this feeling that this was going to be the case coming into this year. You saw Julius Randle hit a wall, an absolute wall, and was so ineffective in the playoffs. They were playing Brunson 40 insane minutes. Julius Randle, they had to take off the floor because it was so problematic. That was because Thibodeau ran them into the freaking ground during the regular season. If you're looking at his minutes, I think it's going to stay pretty consistent around 33, 34 without any change to it, because these have been pretty competitive games. They lost by 9 to the Pelicans, won by 6 against Atlanta, a loss by 4 to Boston. These are competitive games, and Jalen Brunson has yet to eclipse the 33-minute mark. Now, Julius Randle, he's played 34 in every single game here. I think this is something that's done by design. Coming off of last season, they also have Josh Hart here for a full beginning of the season, whereas last year they traded for him. He was somebody that off the bench was awesome for this basketball team and then starting at times. But with Quentin Grimes now kind of being trusted to play at least 25, 26 minutes a night here, I'm just not in love playing Jalen Brunson for a historical price tag of $7,700 if I'm not going to be getting that ceiling of minutes, if I'm not looking at anything like 37, 38 minutes in the near future. So pass for me, at least for now, until we see the minutes starting to ramp back up.
All right, so let's go ahead and do the same deal now for FanDuel, and we'll see what pops up FanDuel and how much different looking that might be for DK. And same deal, Jordan, go ahead and build some contrarian lineups. And if you guys want to sign up for all of the data and tools we have at Stokastic.com, this is the last chance to take advantage of our tip-off promo, because tonight at midnight, the deal comes to a close. So if you've been on the fence about signing up for our data and tools, which includes player projections, ownership projections, so all the data you come to expect. But in addition to that, we've also got our Sims tool. We've got our contest generator, so you can build all your lineups on our site. The lineup generator is also included in that. Get access to all of that for 20% off when you sign up using that link below in the promo code TIPOFF. And this is the last call for it. Today, that deal is going to be ending. Let's look here at the FanDuel exposures that we're getting to. And once again, lots of Cavs. Evan Mobley, Donovan Mitchell, Markelle Fultz, Grayson Allen. Talked about him a second ago. He's so much cheaper on FanDuel than DK. That does make him fairly difficult to avoid. The Max Strus, Isaac Okoro, Dean Wade, all of the Cavs dominating our lineups again here, Eric.
Unreal. I mean, I'm going through the Sims doing my last run of everything, and I'm getting to a lot more of the Okoro. I mean, you got to remember that this is also basing it off of the projections as it stands right now. There's a lot of things that can happen with that news, with that late swap. So, I mean, you can take some stands by going to the ROI boost. That's kind of what I've done with Zubats, where I just took him way down, put Plumlee way up, took my 5,000 lineups, ran them again and again and again, just to make sure that I kind of got the right combination of the way that I think the news could break down most likely. It takes 2 minutes to do it. You just click the button a lot in one direction. And so ROI boost definitely come in handy for late swap as well here.
Yeah, and that's something as well. Like, if you guys feel like you're getting to too many of the Cavaliers players, somebody left us a super chat about that before, you can just do negative ROI boost to some of those Cavs players like a Max Strus, who you're probably going to be getting a lot of. And then you could do something like do an up boost to, Norman Powell, Bones Highland, whoever it may be. So you could backload your lineups a little bit, and that will give you more flexibility if players do get ruled out. But who knows? Maybe everybody does end up playing. One thing I now that I'm thinking of as we're talking through the Clippers situation, if he plays, would you be trying to get to Zubats?
Yeah, I'd say he's expensive. The minutes are diluted to a certain extent. He's probably the one guy who's kind of unaffected by a lot of this because it's just been a center swap here. They have done a couple of spots where they've played small, but like for the most part, it's Plumlee and him. And so the guy who's still around is Plumlee. He didn't get shipped off. So that kind of creates an issue. I think it's probably more to do with what I believe the perceived ownership would be, because $5,900 for Zubats is definitely an overpay in this role on a 3-game slate where there's other value early on. So if Zubats ends up being in, I'm probably screwed on that front. But again, the Norman Powell piece is so gigantic, and I would I'm just going to be making way for him no matter what here. Not enough people swap. I hope that news comes out as late as humanly possible. But because of Zubats, the tag, he would no way be a priority. Would just be somebody that I would try to get to from a contrarian perspective if we're looking at like a 5% ownership, because his chance of being optimal playing 26, 28 minutes for the Clippers as the starting center is a lot higher than that.
We've got a question here from Ant860 for $. He said, is Sam Merrill in play? Any relevant minutes? No, he's not somebody I'm getting to.
No, I thought about it as I was piecing it together with some of these 3K pieces. I'm more inclined to just kind of, if I need to react to Like if I need to build out some balance stuff, if somebody who's 3K goes completely off, it's going to be hard for me to like replicate what that is. Like, I don't know, 20 points. If somebody went for 20 points, I wouldn't even necessarily be mad at it because you do have pieces of news that are waiting in the wings there on the Clippers side. We'll get the starting lineup. We'll have Norman Powell or Bones Highland to be able to jam to some extent. We could have Mason Plumlee as the best value play of the slate. We could have a lot of iterations of our lineups that just have better value coming up later. So I like the value pieces that are more certain. The Dean Wades, the Isaac Okoros, the Max Strus is there from the Cleveland side. George Niang is somebody who I'm going to get to a little bit of just because I think that shooting potential, if he gets hot, he could end up running out on the floor a little bit more, be that offense in the second unit. But otherwise, I'm far more inclined to take the value later on.
Couple more super chats that have come in. This one is from Dahmer707 saying, should I be using Hartenstein at the center spot with potential value opening up? Thanks, guys. Y'all the best. I have 2 out of 150 lineups with Hartenstein, and no.
And no. Yeah, Hartenstein. Let me see what I ended up finishing up with because should be pretty clean here now. 54 lineups. Hartenstein, I got 5%. That's fine.
I wouldn't be playing him a ton either way, but if there was nobody on the injury report for the later games of the night, then I would be able to consider a little bit more just because there is a clear upside. There's a very good pointsman and fantasy producer. His minutes, you never know what the hell you're going to get out of it. Even Thibodeau, do you remember last year when Mitchell Robinson was hurt and Hartenstein was like super chalk and his minutes remain just like totally unaffected to the point actually where we saw him play sometimes like more when Mitchell Robinson was in than when he was out. So his minutes are kind of always all over the place. There's an upside with Hartenstein, but I really would rather give myself the flexibility for potential value later in the night than go and play Hartenstein.
Yeah, that's kind of where I've landed on. As I was working through the Cleveland stuff, we saw the starting lineup we were expecting. Yeah, it's just with Thibodeau right now, I just don't think we're seeing enough minutes. I'm going to get to these guys. It's a 3-game slate, but like any of these ancillary pieces, I have like 3% Emmanuel quickly as I'm scrolling through the Sims tool. I got to 1% Quentin Grimes. I'm just not playing a lot of Knicks. Dante DiVincenzo, one lineup of him. I mean, this is just disgusting trying to get to anything else that's contrarian there. Far more inclined to just get weird later on.
Next super chat is from Lazo Juan Burnett. Lazo Juan wants to know, does it matter that the Knicks and I assume this is the Cavs. By the way, he spelled Knicks N-I-C-K-S and he spelled Cavs C-A-R-S. Does it matter that they play tomorrow? I haven't even looked at tomorrow's schedule.
No. I mean, I talked about that a little bit on the onset where the Clippers, that's partially my Zubats take is that just save him up for AD tomorrow night. Let Mason Plumlee just do his thing here tonight. It's a pretty cake puff matchup going up against Wendell Carter. What's up?
I think he means because he said does it matter if the Knicks and Cavs play tomorrow? I think he means that the same two teams are playing each other back to back. The Knicks and Cavs play each other the exact same matchup tomorrow also.
Yeah, I don't think it matters at all.
Yeah, I don't either. Like, I don't think this is a thing where it's like the World Series and teams like, oh, we can't use this player as much because we want to save him for a different game, like a reliever. It's different in basketball. The only thing that we could see end up happening is, sometimes if teams are playing on the front end of a back-to-back, if a game is like a 20, 25-point game in the fourth quarter, it might be a little bit apt to take their players out earlier just because they know they're playing the next day. But it's not anything that I think should really massively be impacting your lineups. The next question is from Big Boy I, who said, please rank Wade, Gordon, Allen, Goodwin, and Okoro. Can you do me a favor, Big Boy I? What site, DraftKings or FanDuel? Because it's going to make a pretty big difference. If I remember from Big Boy's questions last year, I think he plays on FanDuel. You don't have to leave us another super chat, but just throw it into the YouTube channel. Which question is you're asking you're asking for? Because it's going to be different answers, whether it's DraftKings or FanDuel. Okay, that answers the super chats. And if we don't see something in the YouTube chat in like the next 2 minutes, then we'll just answer the question. Discord.
Oh, just give me the answer.
Oh, both. Okay. So, Eric, do you want to do that for DraftKings and I'll do it for FanDuel then?
Yep, we can rank them. Cool.
Okay. So, for FanDuel, let's see. So, he is asking us about Dean Wade.
Yep.
Eric Gordon, Grayson Allen, Jordan Goodwin, and Isaac Okoro.
All right. So I have of Wade, I have 30% on the dot. I don't know how that's possible. So Wade, 30%. Gordon, I have 26%. Allen, I have 18%. Goodwin, I have 30%. That's surprising to see. I can turn that into other stuff. And then Okoro, I have 10%. I'm way lower on Okoro, it would seem. So hopefully just listing those off helped you to some extent.
Allen, 1 for me on FanDuel. Goodwin, 2. Dean Wade, 3. Okoro, 4. And then Gordon, 5. Yeah, that's good. That's the order I have them in terms of exposures in the lineups I built out on FanDuel. So thank you for the super chat. Big boy IE. Thank you. Appreciate it. Go back into Discord just to make sure
I
we didn't
appreciate
miss anything.
you.
We do have Jay asking for Showdown, Suns, Spurs. Here's what we're going to do, Jay. As soon as we get to lock, we'll pull up the Sims tool and build out lineups for the Suns Spurs game. So as soon as like 5 minutes from now, we'll start to build up lineups and we'll see what ends up looking good for that late night showdown there. Anything else you're noticing in your lineups as you're submitting everything, Eric?
I don't want RJ Barrett this much. That's the thing I'm noticing. 4 minutes to go, and that is something that needs to get fixed. Somehow, I don't know, because I just do it by my top ROI lineups, and I only have 15% RJ Barrett, but I sorted, I'm playing a handful of lineups in the 15 and 4, and I'm kind of sorting just by my best ones. Somehow RJ Barrett is in my top lineups, and I'm just trying to filter him out a little bit from some of those, because that feels like a piece. Yeah, he's fine, 6,200, but I would have Norman Powell projected for more raw fantasy points than RJ Barrett if he were healthy.
I only have 7% of RJ Barrett.
Good.
So,
that seems more appropriate. And what I would like, Gregory.
That.
Yes.
I really wish LeVert would have just played and I could have gone way lower on the Cavs and just hope for late value. But it's so hard to forego these Cavs guys, which is one final thing before heading into lock here that I wanted to ask you. What is your order of exposure for the Cavs players tonight?
All right. ROI, here we are. Donovan Mitchell, number 1. I have 66% of him.
Okay.
Evan Mobley is actually 2, which is surprising because I thought it was Max Strus, but in apparently ordering it, I got to a little bit more Max Strus, sitting at 42%. Dean Wade sitting at 33%. Talked about him before. Where else are we at here? 30% Dean Wade. There it is on the number. Where's the next Cav here as I'm scrolling down? Isaac Okoro. I only have 10% Isaac Okoro. That's a scary one. I think I listed that off. That was a little bit surprising for me to see, but Isaac Okoro traditionally is not a good fantasy point per minute guy. I know there's a lot of pieces that are out. I know that he played 35 minutes last game, but even still, 4,500 for him. I think it's just a result of what I'm doing with Norman Powell. He's cheaper, and I would want him way more. He's a way better fantasy point per minute guy. Even if we're looking at 33, 35 minutes here for Isaac Okoro, I'm just going with more historical stuff, and I'm just not going to be getting to nearly as much.
For me, it is Dean Wade 1, Donovan Mitchell 2, and there's a drop off. I get to Max Strus. After Strus, Evan Mobley, and then Isaac Okoro. Those are all of the Cavs that I have double-digit exposure to.
Yeah, see, that sounds good to me. That sounds good.
I hate that Dean Wade is currently our most rostered player on the slate, but he's cheap. He's going to play a lot of minutes.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling.
It's going to be the type of thing where if it goes well, I'm not going to feel great about myself. And if it goes poorly, I'll feel very terrible about myself. Because then I'll have to be like, oh, really? I lost money because I played a bunch of Dean Wade in DFS. Like, of course I should lose money playing a bunch of Dean Wade. But it's such a thin team. Like it's kind of hard to avoid them.
They're not thickums. They're thin.
Dean Wade. Yeah. Dean Wade's in like 3/4 of my lineups. RIP to me before I even start.
Yeah, rip seasons, Sonny.
Who's most likely to ruin you tonight? It's Dean Wade for me.
I thought you were going to make a joke there about something else, but I'm glad that you didn't take the low-hanging fruit that you set up yourself. Who's most likely to ruin me? Not Dean Wade. I'm pretty neutral on Dean Wade. I mean, Donovan Mitchell, that's a pretty hefty amount of exposure, but I bet that's pretty close to what we get at lock here as we get there. I'm going to say, I guess it's probably Ivica Zubac. If he plays, that would be very well. That's not true because I would just be swapping out, and we have a lot of flexibility for that afternoon. In this early game, it's definitely going to be Max Strus. He could definitely ruin me. I have quite a bit Max Strus.
All right, we are at lock. So Eric and I are going to be sticking around for the next 30 minutes. We're going to build some lineups for Showdown right now. We'll see what pops up. And then also, we'll look at some bets. We'll see what's popping up in OddsShopper. Maybe there are bets that are starting to populate for tomorrow's games. I haven't really checked it for tomorrow's slate yet. So that'll be a nice surprise. We can play some bets on the air. I can do that from my phone if we find some stuff that we really like. And then also, like we said, we're going to be doing the lineups we're going to build for Showdown, and anything else that breaks in between, whatever it's going to impact, we could certainly hit on that as well. And if you guys haven't done yet, sign up at Bet365. Eric and I are going to find some of our favorite bets of the day, and we'll try to highlight some Bet365 ones. If you guys haven't signed up there, sign up at Bet365. And when you place a $5 bet, you get $150 in bonus bets. And take advantage of these offers while they exist because they come and go pretty quickly. And it's only available right now in Kentucky, Ohio, New Jersey, Virginia, Iowa, Colorado. So if you're one of those states, make sure you're taking advantage of it. Call or text the number 1-800-GAMBLER if you're anybody you know has a gambling problem. Jordan, can you pull up the Sims tool on screen? And let's build some lineups for Showdown. So we've got for the late game, the Clippers taking on the Magic. Typically, we have the Warriors, Lakers, or both of them in the late night game for Showdown, but a little bit different of a look here. So go select, build 5,000 lineups for this and generate them. Now we wait.
No, we wait.
Why are you not going as Jordan Klein to your other Halloween party?
Maybe it is something to do with the fact that nobody else would get it. And I would show up and they would be like, cool costume, Eric. Why are you a stoner who is out on the West Side? And it's like, I don't know. I don't know why I'm that.
I find that Jordan has a couple thousand followers on Twitter. I think some people would know who he is.
Yeah, the 12 of them. I think he's there. I think they're there. Here's the thing, though. Jordan Klein is kind of a legend amongst my friends. He's
there we go.
He's just like the kindest, gentlest person that there has ever been. And whenever he comes over, he shows up with peanut butter and hangs out with Duke for an hour by himself. And it's just so nice to be able to have that time to myself. So I really appreciate Jordan.
Go 30% to first. And Duke gets so excited when Jordan comes over. Also, it goes, by the way, this is not even a lie. It goes right for the ball sack every time.
Every time. That is actually the truth.
Do you think it's because of the peanut butter?
I think it might be, but I don't know. I think it's probably more to do that Jordan Klein's ball cheese smells just delicious.
Oh, it does. It does, doesn't it? So what we're doing right now is we built out lineups in the contest generator, made 5,000 lineups for Showdown tonight. Now we're simulating these lineups. And what I find really helpful about the contest generator and the Sims tool for small slates and for Showdown is it helps us identify which lineups are going to be duped, and it also incorporates that into our simulated ROI. So favorite the top 150, Jordan, but then also sort by the dupes column because I want to see which lineups are expected to be duped the most in Showdown for today. So there's a super, super popular lineup. And that's something that you'll find often with Showdown is even if the lineup projects for a lot of fantasy points, it might be so heavily duped that it's kind of hard for it to be one that has a really high ROI because even if that lineup wins, it won't pay out as much as other lineups. And can you do me a favor, Jordan? Get on mic and read off the players in that lineup because I cannot see what it says on screen. Unless Eric can, he could read it.
I can read it. Kawhi Leonard, Franz Wagner, Markelle Fultz, Norman Powell, Russell Westbrook, Wendell Carter Jr.
All right. So Kawhi Leonard is in the captain spot there. So at least in our number one over. Oh, sorry.
Oh, he got to sort it by simulated ROI. We got to do it different.
So anyway, that's the most duped lineup today. I meant to say that is the lineup that the field is expected to be played the most for tonight. And now if we sort by simulated ROI to the left, we'll see which lineup actually projects the best for us by sim ROI. And Eric, give that one a read too, because my eyesight has not improved in the last 15 seconds.
I got you. Paul George, Franz Wagner, Vika Zubats, Mo Wagner, Russell Westbrook, Wendell Carter Jr.
All right. And let's see what we're getting to in the individual players now. Click on the exposures, Jordan. And now we're going to look and see which players we're getting the most exposure to. And this is bigger, so I could see this a little bit better. Wendell Carter Jr., our most rostered player in the flex spot here for Showdown, getting to him in 52.7% of lineups. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Russell Westbrook, all in about half lineups. And yeah, this is stuff also that it's going to change later on in the night. So another reason too, that if we start to see players like Zubac and or Norman Powell ruled out, you guys are probably going to want to rerun this and build out some new lineups for that kind of scenario. But given the information we currently have right now, Paul George is our most rostered captain. Let's see who else we're getting to in the captain spot. Kawhi Leonard, second most. Nothing surprising there. Each of them mid 20%-ish. And then if we keep going down, who are some of the more contrarian captains? Wendell Carter Jr. is not projected for much captain ownership, getting to him there. Same with Franz Wagner, double-digit exposure to each of them, a little bit overweight. Are there any, if you scroll to the top again one more time, Jordan, I just want to see if there's any flex plays that are projected for low ownership that we're getting to. I think I saw Amir Coffey in there, which is interesting. Like Amir Coffey, even under the assumption that Norman Powell and Zubac are going to be in, we are still getting to some lineups of Amir Coffey. There it is. Yeah, we're getting to nearly 20% of Coffey. So about double the field on Amir Coffey. He's somebody who looks like a pretty good contrarian play for Showdown today. And then would be probably popular for Showdown purposes if we see players get ruled out for the Clippers. So if Norman Powell's out, Bones Highland look better. Amir Coffey would look better. If Zubac is out, we'd be looking at Mason Plumlee. Call them Miles. Too many Plumleys. Aren't there three Plumlee brothers?
There are three. One Mason, of them sucks.
Miles, Marshall.
Yeah.
In fairness,
one of them is
three.
They
of them
kind of all suck. Now. But yeah, well, Mason Plumlee could. I mean, he can play 16, 18 minutes a game for you. That's fine. I have no problem with that. The other two, watched them all at Duke. They ain't the best. We'll throw it that way.
Let's look at the contests for tonight, and then we'll go and look for some bets for tomorrow, Eric. I know that right after this, you're going to be recording your video. We got the Lindy's, leans, likes, locks, licks, all that good stuff. You guys can find that on the OddsShopper channel. Yeah, Eric crushing it every day, doing picks for all the games, and the people love it. It's the most popular video on the internet.
I don't think that's true. I think there are people opening boxes in Brazil that get like billions of views, and the amount of money they make. Somebody told me that the other day because I was talking about, hey, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, hey, I go on YouTube. I talk about sports all day with my friends, and it's a pretty great gig. It's an amazing gig. And she's like, oh, well, my friend unpacks. I don't know what they are. They're those little doll things that you see in like every trading card shop. They like unpack dolls, or they have like different things that they open up to like valuate them for how much they were. And she's like, oh yeah, they just got a 1 billion view plaque from YouTube. I was like, what? It's absurd. And it was like 1 month of them doing these videos. So like, are we even at 1 billion views in general? Have we hit 1 billion views?
I don't know. I will say this though. It is funny how it's like, we'll look into all of the Google analytics, the YouTube analytics. You try to figure out what's the content people want to see. And then it's like the actual most viewed video on YouTube is just like a man getting impaled by a horse penis and getting ripped inside out. It's like, well, why didn't we try that with Eric? We could have gotten more views. It's a real video, by the way. Not with you that I know of, but there is one out there.
Wow. Rude.
I'm just saying, if you're really a team player and you're trying to increase the amount of views that we get on YouTube, it's something to consider.
I mean, I sold out a long time ago, my friend. I'm happy to do whatever you tell me to. You are the commander in chief. We follow you into the night. You are. This is our Independence Day, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that you want to be like yelling a motivational speech before you go ahead and do that, but
I really don't. But I do want to get money on Corey Seager over 1.5 total bases right now. That would be fun, wouldn't it?
Right now, this second?
I do. Corey Seager over 1.5. Yeah, there we go. Got it.
Where's let's actually, Jordan, pull up OddsShopper. Let's go and look for Corey Seager on OddsShopper.
He's got a -3% over there, but again, we're doing a market-based approach here, and this is as good as it gets. Obviously, Noah Dolis Garcia absolutely sucks. Having to face Manaply right off the bat absolutely sucks. But one of the things that I've been doing pretty successfully throughout this postseason is going over to the old fan graphs, and I just try to play the game of who is X going to face. Like, who is it that is going to be matched up multiple times? And Joe Manaply getting rid of right away in that first inning for the for the Arizona Diamondbacks. That creates no mismatches for him later on in the game. And I'm kind of just working through who I think is going to be eating up a bulk of these innings from the Arizona side. It's not great options. You utilized, Merrill Kelly, Gallen, they're going to be saved up here. One of them is going to be pitching there on Thursday. Brandon Pfaadt just got done pitching here as well, but they haven't utilized anybody here outside of, let's see, Paul Sewald, Ryan Thompson there, Joe Manaply, the one lefty there. They used Kyle Nelson for 12 pitches yesterday. And Sal Frank, he has been so much better in the postseason than what he's been during the regular season. During the regular season, he was the 200. What?
He pitched he made 10 appearances in the regular season. They use him every playoff game.
237th out of all qualified relievers. If you're going to give me that lefty as the matchup with Corey Seager, I'm pretty excited about being able to back him. And so I was running some numbers where I think you're looking at about a 4%, 5% expected ROI. And for me, that goes into the lock category. I know it seems like a small margin, but the whole idea of doing leans, likes, locks is I want to give you my confidence level in a play based on something that's right around 4.5% or more expected ROI. That's as good of a play as you're going to find. And so one of the best tools about OddsShopper, one of the best things about OddsShopper with these tools is that you're using the market-based approach. You can find something that's pretty close to that EV line. And if you have the research, if you have the data, if you have the projections, which we have on the Stokastic side to help you kind of figure out the difference and where there might be an inefficiency or two, there are so many opportunities to make positive EV bets. So it's not just the things that jump up to the top. Although I know Greg, looking at his picket results, he is almost strictly off of OddsShopper, and he is absolutely smashing the earth. If you thought his DFS results were ridiculous, this guy has a 4-5% expected ROI on all bets for the last 3 months. I don't think people understand how good that is, the weight that carries. I wish we could get people to understand that those small margins, these small market-based approach, when you're able to look at sharper sports books, and we have different ways of evaluating how they or which ones are the sharpest, but if you're basing your bets basically off of those and being able to get in on the other side of it, you are making money, and you have done it better than I think anybody on earth or within our organization over the course of the last couple months. So shout out to you for that. I kind of go through it with my own approach, but I utilize OddsShopper every single day. It's the beginning and it's the end point for what I do. And Corey Seager, 1.5 total bases. I have it a little bit better than what we've got at the true odds of -104. But again, that is the combination of having the tools we have at Stokastic and the tools that we have here at OddsShopper.
Yeah. So to put it a little bit simpler to say than what Eric did, I just log on to OddsShopper a few times a day and just place all the bets that project the best. And it's been really profitable.
Well, there you go. That's always good. For me, it's I'm researching it every day to make videos. So I might as well just be firing up the same stuff and looking at OddsShopper every single day and refreshing it and trying to find where value might be, where we can kind of run into it here. And again, Corey Seager, he's been setting the absolute world on fire. And absent Adolis Garcia, he is the guy that needs to kind of keep it intact. Again, it's going to be a very small sample size. They're up 2-1 baseball. It's a weird small sample size the playoffs are, but there's no doubt that Corey Seager, when you talk about some of these lefties that are the guys that would have to come in after Manaply, I feel pretty good about his opportunities, even against a Paul Sewald, who we went yard on, Kevin Ginkel, a righty that you do not want to have faced with some of that high heat going towards Corey Seager, because if you elevate a fastball against him, you toast. So I'm pretty excited about the matchups he's got in this series.
I've got the Knicks Cavs game on right here, so I could watch all of the Cavs players
just start
score fantasy points. Oh, we're halfway through the first quarter. Everybody from the Cavs is doing terrible. Mitchell isn't doing anything. Dean Wade isn't doing anything. The only guys who are doing anything in this game is Jalen Brunson, and that's kind of it. Jalen Brunson's going nuts. Everybody else.
Oh, cool. The guy that I shorted. That's fun.
Yeah, everybody else terrible. Although it looked like, I think that was a Coro. I just saw knocked down a 3 out of the corner of my eye. But yeah, nobody doing anything. Mitchell really struggling so far in the early going. So you know whose fault this is?
Oh,
Karis LeVert. If he would have just played, we wouldn't have had this much Cavs exposure. It's his fault.
Absolute.
Can't take any responsibility.
Absolute jerk face.
Somebody said Okoro's on fire. Yeah, only because, you got to overreact to the early going of the game. And the only reason Okoro is doing well right now is because he hit a 3 right after I mentioned him, but Okoro so Okoro was 8.75 fantasy points now. Before I said that he had a 5.25. So those threes in the early going really do change what your pace is on, where you're going for. But so far, everybody's sucking for the Cavs. Are we panicking, Eric?
No.
All right. Well, you and I are not the same. I am shitting my pants over here.
Okay. Don't do that.
3.25 fantasy points. We've got no. Mine smell really good. Donovan Mitchell, 3.25 fantasy points. Okoro, 8.75. Dean Wade, 1.25 fantasy points. Let's see, where is Evan Mobley at? Evan Mobley is at 7.25. Not great, but not terrible either. Slow start for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Jordan, if you wouldn't mind going back to OddsShopper, let's just look at all of the bets and what's projecting best right now, because, there could be bets that are up for tomorrow for NBA. There could be bets as everything just crashed on my computer, so I can't look.
Well, that's good. Right, that's good. Good.
All right. So what is popping up? I sort by NBA. Yeah, I don't think people really want to see college football Air Force games or anything like that. But number one bet there, we've got Jordan Goodwin under 4.5 assists. We've got that line is. This has really become annoying how I can't see things anymore.
Well, that's too bad.
There we go. Minus 160 are the odds that are best available on the market. And the fair odds that we've projected to the right are minus 185. So we're getting pretty good value there on Jordan Goodwin. Some Russell Westbrook unders. I'm going to say this, though. I don't really want to bet too many Clippers unders right now. I'd rather wait for the news to come out and see what ends up happening. But anything that really stands out to you for tonight's NBA games?
Yeah, the Jordan Goodwin going on the under there earlier in the day, again, because this is something that is fluid and it's always changing and the numbers are always changing. I did like the Jordan Goodwin over of PRA earlier. I had that on a Prize Picks card that I put together here. Let me pull that up here while I'm at it. What did I finish up with entirely? Yeah, because we love ourselves some Prize Picks here in the streets. But I ended up with, because I know it was attached to Kevin Durant at over 31.5 points. Jusuf Nurkic, I do like the double-double there for him as well. Talked about that a little bit earlier. That was something that was popping on OddsShopper earlier as well. So always nice when that's meeting up there. But Jordan Goodwin over 17.5 PRA. That looks to be off the top of the board here for OddsShopper. Now 4.5 assists being the under kind of the preferred path. That's a pretty high number. It's a pretty darn high number. 4.5 assists for him. He's played decently well, but yeah, I feel like shorting that at that number. 27 for an OS, rating 6% expected value. Again, anything over 4 is like an absolute smash. So that's a really good number to be getting. It's been active there for 57 minutes. You can see that with the EVH. That's how long that line has been locked in for you. So I would be taking advantage of that.
Looks like we saw the first change up made by the Cavs. I think it was Max Strus going to the bench for Imani Bates, who's now in the game. And then Donovan Mitchell bricks another 3 because that is all he's been doing. Julius Randle pulls down a board.
Absolute idiot.
Do you have any bets going that you're sweating for the Cavs Knicks game?
Yeah, Cleveland money line plus 130. So pain and suffering is kind of the start of this. But yeah, 16. Did somebody just knock down a 3? George Niang, my dude. Shout out Iowa State. Mitchell Robinson just slamming it back as soon as somebody says that he sucks. I hope he continues to suck. I don't have any of him, so that would be preferable. If you want.
We do have Niang came into the game for Dean Wade. If I'm being honest, there's still 2 white guys on the court. Didn't realize they were different people. But George Niang is in there for Dean Wade right now. We've got 12 minutes left to go here. And if you guys have any questions for us, you could definitely throw those into the YouTube chat or into the Discord channel. We could answer any questions that you guys may have. We could also build out lineups for the other Showdown game, Jordan, if you pull up the Sims tool, because there are 2 late night games today. In addition to the Clippers and their game, we have the game between the Suns and the Spurs, and we don't have any injury news for that one. So we could also make some Showdown lineups for that to see what ends up popping up, because we've got Showdown. You could build them for FanDuel, for DraftKings, and then for all the individual games in here. So let's go. Actually, sorry, Jordan, pivot. Let's go FanDuel and see what looks different if we do the FanDuel late night game between the Magic and Magic Clippers. We'll build lineups out for that. We did it for DraftKings. I don't want to make people feel like we're not talking about FanDuel here, so we do it for FanDuel as well. Dynamo in the chat wants to know, why is Eric dressed like that? Because he's Jordan Klein for Halloween.
Jordan D. Klein on the Twitters. Don't wear it out, friends. Dude,
Jordan
bro,
David
chill
Klein.
season. DBC. Again, I'm so mad at myself for not hanging the Kobe jersey up. That would have been the most epic edition, but such is life. It's Halloween. It's orange behind me.
What are you going to go for your real Halloween party?
7 years in a row, I've been a blind referee.
Are you doing it again this year?
I'm 100% being a blind referee.
Are they just tired of it? Do you show up and they're just like, again?
No, it's like in How I Met Your Mother, where he's the dimpled Chad for like every Halloween for 10 years in a row until he runs back into Katie Holmes. Also, should have married Katie Holmes. That would have been a great decision. Absolute fire.
That show's terrible, though.
You're terrible.
All those shows suck.
You suck.
I know, but it doesn't have anything to do with the show.
I know.
Dean Wade sucks.
Great show.
No,
What?
it's not. Oh, all right. Let me check FanDuel. All right. What is the percentage payout to first over on FanDuel? It is for Showdown tonight, or single game over on FanDuel. Their big contest pays out 25% to first. So 25% and let it rip.
Hartenstein in the game. Now we watch has ended. George Niang, 2 threes. Full 3.
Jalen Brunson looks like he looks okay now. Looks like he was a little banged up for a second. I think I'm a little behind you. I have it at 331, 330, 329 on my screen over here.
Oh, you can count. Good for you. No, Mom, I can't talk to you.
And I'm also not counting. I'm just telling you the numbers that are on my screen. So I actually have to look at the timer because I don't know what number comes next. So that's how I'm like, oh, cool. This is the next number after 20. 19. Oh, 18. 309, 308 on my screen. Favorite the top 150 lineups, Jordan? Now sort by dupes. Let's see what the most duped lineup is over on FanDuel. So the lineup that is expected to be played the most frequently on FanDuel. All right, I'm doing my best to read this. All right, so that's Kawhi Leonard in the MVP spot, Paul George, Paolo Banchero, Mason Plumlee, and Markelle Fultz. That is your chalk over on FanDuel, the most duped lineup that we have. And then if you sort by simulated ROI, I want to see what our best projected lineup is. All the way to the left, Jordan. Yeah, simulated ROI. I just want to see which lineup projects the best for us here. It is Paul George in the MVP spot with Russell Westbrook, Wendell Carter Jr., Ivica Zubac, and Mo Wagner. And now we could go to the exposures and see which individual players it is that we're getting to the most of. So as far as individual players go, no real surprise, but in the captain spot, MVP on FanDuel, we're getting to most of Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. That's making the majority of our lineups. If you were not playing either of them in the MVP spot and trying to get different on FanDuel, we don't have to worry about the difference in salary, Eric. Who is it that you would look to for in the MVP spot on FanDuel if you weren't going to George or Leonard?
Yeah, it'd have to be Paolo Banchero, I think. I mean, you're just looking from a raw points perspective. Who's going to be on the floor a lot? Who's going to possibly put up that absolute gangbusters type game here? And I think Paolo Banchero, he's going to be somebody who continues to expand. I mean, he hasn't even shot the ball all that well here, but we've seen big offensive games here now from Cole Anthony. We've seen it kind of diluted. I mean, Gary Harris shot the ball pretty well last game as well. 6 for 6 from the field, kind of annoying, but Orlando's pretty spread out there for the most part. I don't think it would be somebody else on the Clippers side. I mean, Russell Westbrook obviously would kind of be next in line. You and I have been kind of shorting him for the most part. This season hasn't burned us yet, but I mean, he's going to see the floor a lot. I suppose Russ would be the chalk answer, but something has me kind of leaning towards Banchero in that spot.
I don't have an issue with that at all. We've got, and we'll see what ends up happening with the injury scenarios in this game, but I do think Banchero makes some sense for the upside. let's go and look at just exposures of everything, Jordan. Just remove the filter. Yeah, I want to look at some of these flex players.
Somebody say flex?
Yeah, go ahead, Jordan Klein.
Go.
What'd you do, flip some tires today?
Oh, buddy, just flipping tires. Oh, bro, dude, like I was flipping tires and like, I don't know. I'm tired now.
It is. I did have a meeting with Jordan, and he did make it very clear to me that he was very tired today. The reason I know that is because if he said 8 words on the call, it was "I'm tired," just said 4 times on repeat. He made it clear he was tired.
Hey, so we should work on our content. I'm tired. I can't do it. Sorry. Okay.
Let's look at some of these players. Who are we getting to that's lower owned on FanDuel? Sort by the leverage all the way on the right, Jordan. Yeah, so we got Cole Anthony. We're playing him 31% in the flex spot. So he's somebody who's not really picking up that much ownership. Very chill. In the pro spot and the star spot, we're getting overweight to Wendell Carter Jr., a player with upside. One thing that is really interesting about Wendell Carter Jr., if Zubac is out, it's a pretty easy matchup for him on paper, which is something to consider if it ends up being not Zubac playing today, which what you had said before, you do expect that to end up being the case. We're getting to Amir Coffey. Even with Norman Powell currently projected in, we are still getting to Amir Coffey as a contrarian play. He's only projected for 3% ownership. And then Jalen Suggs, he is a popular value option that we're getting to in 26.7% of lineups. Anything else that stands out to you here at all, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, just seeing positive leverage on some uncomfortable pieces. But I think the most important thing to say is that there are going to be so many changes between now and how this ends up panning out. This is projecting everybody in. So don't take anything here as gospel, because anytime in NBA you have changes, it's going to dictate a massive shift in terms of what we're going to have for the simulated ROI. However, our data team, they have smashed in updating to injuries, in updating to stuff like this. I know that, I mean, we've just had so many guys that have done a great job of keeping the data updated almost instantaneously with news. It's like 1 minute, it's ready to rock here. And if you look up in the top corner, it's something that I actually sent a note to Greg about yesterday as I was using the late swap tool. I wanted to make sure that, like, as you get over to the late swap tool, you're going to have the accessibility to know when the projections change. But you don't have to necessarily look up in that corner. The projections will change almost instantaneously there before that time sticker changes on the pre-contest simulator. Like, you have to be, you'll be able to tell based on what you're getting in your lineups. Just look for any players that you perceive to be out. If you search by that player, that's kind of the quickest way that I found to see if the projections have been updated or not. And almost every single time, they're updated within 3 minutes of a massive piece of news hitting.
There we go, Eric. Really vouching for the data team there. And yeah, I know that our guys have been absolutely killing it this year. I've certainly profited from their work a lot. And what I do, I just sit here, I make fun of Eric, who's dressed like Jordan. We're very small pieces of the puzzle here, but still benefiting from all the work that our data team is doing nonetheless. Eric, what are you looking forward to the most on Halloween tonight? Anything that we should be prepared for? Any hijinks that you're going to be up to as a blind referee?
Yeah, going to be a blind referee walking down to a place that I will not say in case anybody's in the Los Angeles area, so that you don't come out and like torture me. But anyway, I am excited about being safe, about being pretty close to home, just because, you know, we want to be able to have fun on Halloween. We want to be able to enjoy it. But first, I got 13 games that I've already broken down in the NBA streets. Been working on that here for the last couple hours leading into the show. Massive slate tomorrow. There are going to be so many moving pieces. Check out the Lindy's video over on OddsShopper. Hang out with us here at Stokastic for the strategy show. But know that there are going to be so many moving pieces. It's going to be a live before lock you do not want to miss tomorrow.
Yeah, Eric told me he's going to be at a club called the Roosterfish tonight. So you guys should, if you guys are looking for Eric, just call in advance. And I'm sure that they know him around there. You can find a table for him. Guys,
side by side, Jordan Klein with my dude.
Oh, and Jordan Klein also. Jordan, what are you going to be for Thanksgiving? For Halloween, you going as Eric?
I'm not dressing up.
Yeah, me either. This
Put on a polo. You're me. Welcome.
There we go, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you've not done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Good luck, Dean Wade. Get your shit together. We'll see you back here tomorrow.